This call is now being recorded.
Display slides.
आगे मैडम
Yes, ma'am.
Fourth chapter ta jota tomar seta contemporary urban challenges. Contemporary urban challenges basically kon urban re amar kon challenges rochi kon threats rochi to ta upare hi e chapter ta discussions pura achi. ଯେମିତି କି ଫାର୍ଷ୍ଟ ଆମେ ପଢିବା କି what are the major urban problems କଣ problems ହଉଛି ଯେହେତୁ ଆମର natural increase in urban population natural increase ଯଦି urban population ହବ ତ majority of the problem of urban sphere is related to your unemployment and continuous immigration of population towards city from rural area ତାପରେ development and lack of opportunity are at the core of rural to urban migration ତାପରେ ତମର ରହିବ cumulative effects of excessive concentrations of population and mismanagement of basic amenities ମାନେ ଧର 1000ଟା ଲୋକ ପାଇଁ କି ଯେତିକି resources ତମର ଥିବ even ଯଦି 1000ରୁ 2000 ଲୋକ ସେଇ ଜାଗାରେ ଯଦି ହେଇଯିବେ ତାହେଲେ amenities ର shortage ହବ mismanagement ହବ disturbance ହବ ଏଇ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷ ତାପରେ infrastructure leads to various issue and challenges in urban area କଣ First है tomorrow migration and homeless. Migration is simply the movement of people from one place to another place. Migration is defined as a movement from one migration defining area to another, typically compromising the crossing of administrative boundaries and a change of residence, according to UN in 1993. That can be temporary, permanent, or semi-permanent. In broader perspective, in the most of the developing and less developed nation historically, migration has been associated with high dependence on agriculture in rural and less profit or outcomes from that sector, slow rate of development and less diversification of different sector of the economic in rural area. Major factors of the urban in migration are कौन factor ସେଇଟା ମୁଁ ତମକୁ କହିଥିଲି କି push factor and pull factor. Push factor of rural area and pull factor of urban area. ଏଇଟା ମୁଁ ପଢେଇଥିଲି କି unit 3rd ରେ
मैडम एटा କହିଥିଲେ ଟିକେ
ଏଇଟା ତ
मैडम एटा
ହଁ
କହିଥିଲେ
ଏଇଟା unit 3rd ରେ ମୁଁ PDF ଟା download କରୁଛି ଏଇଟା ହଁ ଏଇଟା ମୁଁ 11 page slides ଯାଇ କହିଥିଲି yes poverty हाँ ମୁଁ ସେ କହୁଛି ଗୋଟେ ତ ପଢା ହେଇଥିଲା 11 poverty ରୁ start କରିବି hello
आगे मैडम
hello
आगे
अच्छा
मैडम
audible ହଉଛି ଗୋଟେ ସେକେଣ୍ଡ ମୁଁ ହେଇଗଲା ମୁଁ ଟିକେ connect କରିଦଉଛି ହଁ ହେଲା ବୋଧେ hello ଏବେ audible ହେଲା
Yes,
hello
ma'am.
आगे मैडम
audible
Yes,
ହଉଛି
ma'am.
ତ voice
Audible.
ଶୁଭା ହଉଛି ତ ହଁ
Yes, ma'am.
तो next ହେଲା ତମର poverty. Poverty is a state or condition in which an individual or community lacks the financial resources and basic necessity for subsistence level of living. Poverty जोठी कि तमरो income from employment that is insufficient to meet the fundamental human needs. There are social, economic and political dimension of poverty. It also refers to the inability to participate in decision affecting their social and economic existence. In 2011, 21.9% of India population was living below the national poverty line. There are two main types of poverty. ଗୋଟେ ହେଲା absolute poverty, ଗୋଟେ ହେଲା relative poverty. Absolute poverty कौन? Absolute poverty, it is a condition in which a household income falls below the minimum level required to maintain essential living standard. Essential living standard ଆମେ ଯୋଉ ଜାଣିଥିବା basic ଆମର କଣ standard living ର ରୋଟି କପड़ा और मकान, food, shelter and housing ହେଲା ସେଇଟାକୁ required maintain କରିବା ପାଇଁ ଯେତିକି income ଥାଏ ସେଇଟା ହେଇପାରେନି ପୂରଣ ହେଇପାରେନି तो ସେଇଟା ହେଲା ତମର absolute poverty। ତାକୁ $a day ବି କୁହାଯାଏ। $a day 1990 ରେ introduce ହେଇଥିଲା to assess the absolute poverty by the standard of world's poorest countries। Relative poverty कौन? It is defined from a social perspective as the standard of life compared to the economic standard of the surrounding population। Typically, relative poverty is assessed as the proportions of the population whose income falls below a predetermined percentage of the median income। माने कि suppose ଗୋଟେ ସିଟିରେ ରହୁଛନ୍ତି 1000 ପିପଲ, ସେମାନେ ସବୁ ସର୍ଭିସ ସେକ୍ଟରରେ ଅଛନ୍ତି, ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କର ଇନକମ ତ ସେମ ନୁହଁ, ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କର ଇନକମ ତ ସେମ ନୁହଁ, ତ ସେମାନେ ଗୋଟେ ମିନ୍ ଇନକମ, ଜଣେ 1000 ଟଙ୍କା ଆନୁଆଲି ମନ୍ଥଲି ଇନକମ ତ ଜଣଙ୍କର 1,00,000 ଟଙ୍କା। ତ ସେମିତି ହେଲେ କଣ,
per capita
1000 ଟଙ୍କା
income।
ବାଲା ଲୋକ, ହଁ ୟେସ୍, ତ ସେଇଟା ହେଲା ରିଲେଟିଭ ଇନକମ। ତାପରେ ଇଫେକ୍ଟ ଅଫ ପୋଭର୍ଟି ଓଭର ଅର୍ବାନ ପୋର, କଣ ଇଫେକ୍ଟ କଣ ରହୁଛି ପୋଭର୍ଟିର ଅର୍ବାନ ପୋର ପିପଲ ମାନଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ? ପୋର ପିପଲ ଲିଭିଂ ଇନ ଇନଫର୍ମାଲ ସେଟଲମେଣ୍ଟ ଆର୍ ସସ୍ପେକ୍ଟେବଲ ଟୁ କମ୍ୟୁନିକେବଲ ଡିଜିଜେସ୍। ତାଙ୍କୁ ଥ୍ରେଟ୍ ଥାଏ କି କମ୍ୟୁନିକେବଲ ଡିଜିଜ ହେଇଯିବ ଡ୍ୟୁ ଟୁ ମାନେ ଏପିଡେମିକ, ଡ୍ୟୁ ଟୁ ଦି ଲ୍ୟାକ୍ ଅଫ ସେଫ୍ ଡ୍ରିଙ୍କିଂ ୱାଟର। ଆମେ ଏଇକ୍ଷଣା ଆକ୍ୱାଗାର୍ଡ କି ପ୍ୟୁରିଟ ଯାହା ବି ଆମେ ପାଣି ପିଉଛୁ, କିନ୍ତୁ ଯଦି ଅର୍ବାନ ସିଟିରେ ଯାଇକି ଦେଖିବ ଯେତିକି ସବୁ ସ୍ଲମ ଏରିଆ ଅଛନ୍ତି, ତାଙ୍କର ଡ୍ରିଙ୍କିଂ ୱାଟରର ସାହାରା କଣ? ସେ ଯୋଉଠି ପାଣି ମିଳିଲା, ରାସ୍ତାରେ ଯୋଉ ଗଭର୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ୱାଟର ସପ୍ଲାଇ ନଳ ଥାଏ କି ଯୋଉଠି ବି ନଥାଏ, ସେମାନେ ଟ୍ୟୁବୱେଲ ହଉ କି କୋଉଠି, ଯୋଉଟା କି ଅନସେଫ ଥାଏ ତାଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ। ସାନିଟେସନ ପ୍ରପର ନଥାଏ, ଇନଏଡୁକେଟ ପାର୍ଟିସିପେସନ ଇନ ଗାର୍ବେଜ, ସେମାନେ ଯୋଉଠି ନା ସେଇଠି କୁଡା ପକେଇ ଦିଅନ୍ତି। ସ୍ଲମ ଏରିଆ ପଶୁ ପଶୁ ତାଙ୍କର ସେମିତି କିଛି ଫ୍ୟାସିଲିଟି ସେ ସବୁର ଜିନିଷ ନଥାଏ। ଏଇ ସବୁ ଜାଗାରେ କିଏ କିଏ ସବୁ ରୁହନ୍ତି, ଯେମିତି କି ଭେଣ୍ଡର୍ସ ହେଇଗଲା, ଲେବରର୍ସ ହେଇଗଲେ, ହକର୍ସ ହେଇଗଲେ, ଏଇ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷ, ଏଇ ସବୁ ଲୋକମାନେ ସେଇଠି ଥାନ୍ତି। As a consequences of their poverty, the poor suffer disproportionately from environmental hazards, mainly due to residence in the hazard and disaster prone area। Major problems facing urban poor, employment ହେଇଗଲା, employment ଯେମିତି ହେଲା, employment opportunity, the urban poor are perpetually disadvantaged due to their primarily deficient skill set। ହେଲା, ସ୍କିଲ ସେଟ୍, ଅର୍ବାନ ସିନା ରୁରାଲ ରୁ ଅର୍ବାନ ସିନା ଯାଆନ୍ତି ଏମ୍ପ୍ଲୟମେଣ୍ଟ ପାଇଁ, କିନ୍ତୁ ତାଙ୍କ ପାଖରେ ସେତିକି ସ୍କିଲ ନଥାଏ କି ଯାହା ଦ୍ଵାରା ସେମାନେ ଅର୍ବାନ ସିଟିରେ କମ୍ପିଟ କରିପାରିବେ ଆଉ ଜଣଙ୍କ ସହିତ। ଇନ ମୋଷ୍ଟ କେସେସ୍ ଦେ ଆର୍ ଅନଏମ୍ପ୍ଲୟମେଣ୍ଟ। ତ ବାଧ୍ୟ ହେଇକି ପଇସା କମେଇବା ପାଇଁ ସେମାନେ ହକର ହେଇଯାନ୍ତି, କିଛି କିଛି ଭେଣ୍ଡର୍ସ ହେଇଯାନ୍ତି, ଏଇ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷ ସେମାନେ କରନ୍ତି। ଦେ ଲ୍ୟାକ୍ ହେଲ୍ଥ ଇନ୍ସୁରାନ୍ସ ଆଣ୍ଡ ଜବ ସିକ୍ୟୁରିଟି। ସେଗୁଡା କଣ, ସେ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷ କଲେ ତାଙ୍କ ପାଖରେ ହେଲ୍ଥ ଇନ୍ସୁରାନ୍ସ ନଥାଏ କି ଜବ ସିକ୍ୟୁରିଟି ବି ନଥାଏ, ଯୋଉଟା କି ଇନକ୍ରିଜ କରେ ତାଙ୍କର ଭଲନେରାବିଲିଟି ଫର୍ଦର। Infrastructure and basic services. For urban poor, without 10-year security, access to fundamental urban services is severely constrained, as are affordability issues। जैसे कि तुम्हारा water connection ହେଇଗଲା, electricity ହେଇଗଲା, sewage and drainage network reach to slum pockets is inadequate, resulting in the impoverished having to pay more for these facilities। High transportation cost and time. In a majority of the case, urban poor have to live in the outskirts of the cities due to less rent and affordable housing for them. But predominant job opportunity are in the inner part of the city. Therefore, poor population have to expend more time on traveling. Their income are so less that it is hard for them to afford fast mode of transportation like service like metro. Vulnerable to disaster. The urban poor and their dwellings are frequently located in the natural hazard zones, placing them at a greater risk for disaster and health problems। Inadequate access to water, sanitation, ventilation increase their susceptibility to disease। ଏଇ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷ ଓଭର କ୍ରାଉଡିଂ ହେଇଯିବ, ଧର ଗୋଟେ ଇଏ ହେଇଗଲା, ତା ନା କଣ କହିଲ, ଫ୍ଲଡ୍ ଆସିଗଲା, ଆର୍ଥକ୍ୱେକ୍ ଆସିଗଲା, ଏଇ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷ। Urban slum and housing. Usually slums, urban slum and housing con, usually slums are characterized by poor housing, lack of clean water and sanitation, insufficient light and air, congestion, vulnerability to disaster। In India, it has a population of 65.49 million individuals who reside in 13.7 million slum households. 65.49 million individual रू 30.7% million जो माने कि slum dwellers. Approximately 65% of the Indian city have slums where people reside in small houses next to one another. The next है problems resulting from ignoring slum development. कौन problems जोड़ा कि ignore करा हो जिस slum development में. Then the people living in slum are susceptible to contracting waterborne diseases such as typhoid and cholera, as well as more terminal diseases such as cancer and HIV/AIDS. In addition to women and children residing in slum are vulnerable to becoming victims of social ills such as prostitution, begging, and child trafficking. Inhabitants of small, regardless of gender, frequently fall victim to such social ills. Crime incidents segala slum area also commonly believed to place with a high crime incidents. This is due to the government disregard for education, law and order, and government services in shanty area. तापरे poverty ହେଇଗଲା, तापरे overpopulation and inadequate infrastructure, एथरे से water sanitation, waste collection एसବୁ जिनस आसबो, poor health condition आसबो, lacking of school आसबो, undevelopment of slum area एसବୁ जिनस. The next है तमरो urban population. Sorry, pollution. Urban pollution. Urban pollution कौन? Urban pollution basically तुम जानते हो air pollution, noise pollution, water pollution. ठीक अच्छी. एगुड़ा सबू urban pollution रे आसीबो. तो एगुड़ा बेसी describe करिया दरकार नहीं, टिके खाली कहि दउछि काहे कि air pollution तो माने टिके जानी थिबो एसो जिंस. तो आधुरु गोटे क्वेश्चन आसी पारे. मे बी एयर पोल्यूशन आसी पारे कि वाटर पोल्यूशन आसी पारे कि लैंड की नॉइज. So air pollution कौन पे हुए? Air pollution is caused by the presence of undesirable gases such as air pollution रो basically जो gases थाए sulfur dioxide and carbon monoxide जोटा कि air रे हमर high concentration सेटा visible थाए. ठीक अछि माने से air टा पाया जाय हमर. Sulfur dioxide and carbon monoxide एई दुईटा gases ही air pollution रो cause. Principal causes of air pollution ଯେମିତି କି ତମର liquid particles ହେଇଗଲା, solid particle ହେଇଗଲା, dust ହେଇଗଲା, vapor and smoke ଏଇ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷ. ଯେମିତି smoke emitted by chemical and paper mills. Then leaks of potentially hazardous and long term toxic gases ଯେମିତି ଆମର ଭୋପାଳ gas disaster ଟା ହେଇଥିଲା ସେଇଟା ଗୋଟେ. ତାପରେ automobile emission ଆମେ ଯୋଉ ଗାଡି ମଟର ଚଲଉଛୁ ତା ଦେହରୁ ବି gases urban air pollution ବାହାରୁଛି ସେ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷଟା. ତାପରେ industrial refuse, ତାହେଲେ construction ଯୋଉ ହଉଛି ସେଇଠି debris ତାଙ୍କର ହେଲା ଏଇ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷ. Then threat posed by urban air pollution. कौन threat तो तुम जान लो सेटा अब children are most affected. हाँ children and old age person जो माने समाने जिससे affected होती. Respiratory problem start हो जाए. बेसी air pollution हेले eye irritation भी start हो जाए. ये सब threat. Then land and water pollution. Organic and inorganic industrial waste and effluents discharged into river and sludge. Landfills causes water and land pollution in urban area. Urbanization is a necessary evil for industrialization. The industries that pollute the most are paper, pulp, chemical, textile and dyeing, petroleum refineries. ହେଲା ଏଇ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷ. This industry release detergents, acids, salt and heavy metal like lead and mercury as well as pesticides, fertilizers, synthetic chemicals with carbon, plastic, rubber into water bodies. Then what are the factors contributing to water pollution? Water pollution, putting water that has not been cleaned into fresh water bodies. 72% of the sewage from the cities in India's freshwater area is not treated. The Central Pollution Control Board says that more than half of the 351 river parts on 323 rivers are dirty. 351 river 323 रिवर जोटा हमर तार वाटर क्वालिटी बहुत ही खराब. It is caused by waste from unapproved colonies that has not been cleaned, waste from factories, sewage water from approved colonies, and pollution from different states. Lack of planning. As of May 2021, only 16 Indian cities had told international institutions about their plans to fight climate change, and only 8 of those cities had real goals linked to sustainability in their urban master plan. Only 43% of the Indian city asked plan to adopt to climate change in their master plans, and only 5 had a goal to reduce greenhouse gas emission. Then ହେଲା ତମର noise pollution. Noise pollution, according to Central Pollution Control Board, noise pollution mandate noise is defined as unwanted sound. Generally speaking, noise pollution is defined as the consistent exposure of humans and other living organisms to sound level that are harmful. Because of more cars, buildings, and people, the quality of the environment in the city is getting worse, which indirectly affects the quality of life in the city. Then, what are the causes of noise pollution? First one is your industrialization. Increasing industries in urban area are a significant source of noise pollution today, as they employ a variety of machines that are capable of producing a great deal of noise. Then inadequate planning of urban areas, improper and poor urban planning contributes significantly to the creations of noise pollution. ଯେମିତିକି ତମର overcrowded houses ହେଇଗଲା, limited space ରେ inadequate parking facilities and frequent dispute over basic amenities will disturb the social environment. Social environment ହେଇଗଲା, social events ତମର ଯେମିତିକି କୋଉଠି marriage ହେଇଗଲା, କୋଉଠି party functions, they use the loudspeaker to play the music. Ah, in public events that cause unwanted noise in the vicinity. Then automobiles and transport. It is a natural ଜିନିଷ automobile and transport ଯୋଉଠି କି urban area city ରେ ଥିବ ରାତି 10ଟା 11ଟା ଯାଏ ସବୁ open ଥାଏ, ଲୋକମାନେ ଯିବା ଆସିବା କରନ୍ତି, ତ ସେଇଠି ଯୋଉ vehicles ଗୁଡା road ରେ is one of the cause of noise pollution. Heavy noise from the traffic congestion ହେଇଗଲା, ତାପରେ train sound, aircraft that can cause hearing impairment. Urban problems of basic service. कौन problems को basic service दरकार. Basic service रे तो आमे जानलु माने कि हमरो मेन जिनस दरकार कि क्लीन वाटर हितवा दरकार, सैनिटेशन हितवा दरकार, तापरे जोटा कि प्रॉपर हेई पारुनी, irregular supplies होची, low water pressure होची, and poor water quality are the problems with water supply in the city of India and many countries. Difficulties रहुची delivering water to the city जेहेतु population is expanding rapidly due to the rapid increase in the urban population and the city's continued expansion. Sanitation भी सही भलिया issues. Then waste and garbage management concern. Waste and garbage management concern. The municipal solid waste rules have been in place since 2000, but they have not been enforced well enough. Today, waste is collected by urban local bodies, non-government organizations, community-based organizations, and private companies. Modern practice of solid waste collection and management have a negative effect on the livelihood livelihood ଉପରେ negative effect ପକଉଛି. Then solid waste जो garbage ଅଛି ସେଟା ତିନିଟା type ରେ ବିଭକ୍ତ ହେଇଛି. First one is your municipal household waste, second is your industrial waste, third is your biomedical waste. Municipal household ରେ କଣ? It is made of trash from homes. ଯାହା ସବୁ ଆମେ ଘରେ ଯେତିକି ସବୁ ଆମର thrash product ଯେମିତି କି vegetables ହେଇଗଲା, polythene ହେଇଗଲା, etc. ଯାହା ବି ହେଇଗଲା, building and demolition sites, sewage waste, ଏଇ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷ ଆମେ କଣ କରୁ street ରେ ପକେଇ ଦଉ. So most of this trash come from residential and business buildings. Industrial waste, the hazardous nature of the industrial and hospital refuse is due to presence of toxic substances. Hospital ରେ ଦେଖିଥିବ ବହୁତ ଗୋଟେ toxic substances ସେମାନେ dump କରିଦିଅନ୍ତି ଗୋଟେ ଅଲଗା ଜାଗାରେ. So Taj Mahal, dangerous pollutants may be extremely toxic to humans, animals, and plants. They are corrosive, extremely flammable, or explosive, and they react when exposed to certain substances such as gases. Biomedical waste कौन? Say hospital waste is made when people or animal are diagnosed, treated, or immunized, as well as when study is done in this area. This includes things like disposable needles, bandage, body fluids, human waste, etc. Importance of waste reduction. Waste reduction ର କଣ importance? There are different kinds of solid waste based on where they came from. In today's polluted world, it is important to learn how to deal with waste properly. Important method for managing municipal solid waste is separation. Compositing is an essential waste management and treatment method. Household garbage can be recycled and reused to prevent the formation of waste as it source and reduce the amount of garbage thrown into the community dustbin. Vehicles overcrowding and traffic management. Traffic is essential to the structure and existence of our city. The amount of traffic on the road is more than it can handle. So the best way to handle traffic to build and plan so that peak hour traffic can move through the street. Introductions of a network, frequent and universally accessible public transport system is an additional crucial method for reducing traffic congestion. Major issue of urban transport system. Common issue, poor road quality and maintenance, insufficient or absent traffic signal and signage, inadequate infrastructure for pedestrian and bicycles, lack of sufficient mobility facilities, animal and street vendors congest the pedestrian walkways, buses, auto rickshaws, and even motorcycles are overcrowded. Accidental fatalities and injuries, pollutions of the environment, and congestion. Next ହେଲା ତମର urban poverty. Urban poverty କଣ? Urban poverty is not a monolithic experience but an amla- amalgamation of factors that result in deprivation and limited access to the essential resources for individual and communities within urban area. ଏଇଟା both tangible ହେଇପାରିବ, intangible ହେଇପାରିବ. For example, in sub-Saharan Africa region, where rapid organization where rapid urbanization is occurring amidst economic challenges. Informal settlement like Liberia in Nairobi, Kenya, optimize the struggle for basic necessity. Urban ସିନା city ହେଇଯାଇଥିବ କିନ୍ତୁ ଲୋକମାନେ basic necessities ପାଇଁ ସେଇଠି struggle କରୁଥିବେ. Social isolation and underclass. Social isolation ର କଣ causes ଅଛି? First ହେଲା economic disparities, limited access to education, inadequate social support structure, manifestation of social isolation and the underclass ରେ manifestation ରେ ତମର economic decline କରିବ, societal norms and cultural biases ହବ, role of technology, କଣ challenges ହବ, prejudice and societal stigma, culture and societal barrier, technological disparities and the digital divide. Causes କଣ ରହିବ? It causes ମୁଁ ଲେଖିଛି, for example is the economic downturn in Detroit in USA following the automobile industry. Detroit ହେଲା ଆମର world ରେ automobile industry. ସେଇଟା ଧୀରେ ଧୀରେ decline କଲା, resulting ସେଇଟା ଯେତେବେଳେ decline କଲା, resulting in widespread of unemployment and urban decay ହେଲା, କାହିଁକି କି ସେଇ city ଟା automobile industries ପାଇଁ ଜଣାଯାଏ ଆଉ ସେଠି ଲୋକ ଯାଆନ୍ତି ସେଇଠି work କରିବା ପାଇଁ। ଯଦି ସେଇଟା decline କଲା ସେ industry downturn ହେଲା ତ widespread of unemployment ହେଇଗଲା, urban decay ହେଇଗଲା। Similarly, political instability in sub-Saharan Africa contributes to economic struggle and social upheavals. India grapples with systematic discrimination, excavating social marginalization, limited access to quality education sustain the cycle of poverty, while the Middle East contains with the absence of robust social support structure fostering vulnerability and social isolation. कौन manifestation of social isolation ର ଅଛି? The economic decline manifests tangibly in abandoned neighborhood and crumbling infrastructure, serving as stark reminder of the societal neglect. ତାପରେ ତମର despite the potential for global connection, affluent urban area in Seoul, South Korea illustrate unintended consequences, heightening feelings of exclusion. Challenges कौन अछि? Challenges तमर अछि in Middle East country, societal stigma complicates effort to address the root causes, adding layer of difficulty to social reforms. ତାପରେ next ହେଲା ତମର causes of poverty in urban environment.
ହ୍ୟାଲୋ
Urban
ମ୍ୟାମ୍ ଏଇ
environment
ସୋସିଆଲ
ର
ଆଇସୋଲେସନ ଟା
hello.
ଆଉ ଥରେ ଟିକେ ବୁଝେଇଦେବେ।
Socialization isolation ମାନେ କଣ କହିଲ ତମେ community ଭିତରେ ଥିବ କିନ୍ତୁ isolated ହେଇକି ଥିବ ଯେହେତୁ ତମର ଏଇ community ସହିତ ନଥାଏ ଏଇ community ସହିତ gap ହଉଥିବ ଗୋଟେ social community ଏଠି ରହିଲା ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ community କିଛି distance ରେ ରହିଲା ସେ community ଲୋକ education ରେ ସବୁଥିରେ ଥିବେ ଏଇ community ଲୋକ ଇଏ ଥିବେ ତ ଏମାନେ ଦି ଜଣଙ୍କର କାହାର ପଡେନି ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ social isolation ଗୋଟେ community ଯେମିତି under classes ଥାଏ ନା class 1 2 3 4 ତ ସେଇଥିରେ social isolation ଗୋଟେ community ହେଇଯାନ୍ତି challenges social isolation ଯୋଉଟା କି
ମ୍ୟାମ୍
ପୁରା
ଡେଟ୍ରଏଟ୍
background ତାଙ୍କର BPL below poverty line ଥାନ୍ତି ହଁ
ମ୍ୟାମ୍
ହ୍ୟାଲୋ
ଡେଟ୍ରଏଟ୍ ଯୋଉ ଏକ୍ସାମ୍ପଲ ଧର ଅଟୋମୋବାଇଲ ସେକ୍ଟର ଅଟୋମୋବାଇଲ ପ୍ରଡକ୍ସନ କରୁଥିଲା ତ ସେଟା କେମିତି ମାନେ
ଡେଟ୍ରଏଟରେ ଯୋଉଟା ଏକ୍ସାମ୍ପଲ ଦେଲି ହଁ କୁହ
ମ୍ୟାମ୍ ସେଟା କେମିତି ମାନେ ଡିଭାଷ୍ଟେସନ ତାର କେମିତି ହେଲା ମାନେ ସେ ଏବେ ଆଉ ମାନେ ଏତେ ନାହିଁ ନା ସେଟା
devastation ଧର suppose
ନିଶ୍ଚୟ
ହଁ devastation ମାନେ କଣ କହିଲ ଦେଖ ସେଇଟା world ରେ number 1 ଅଟୋମୋବାଇଲ ଇଣ୍ଡଷ୍ଟ୍ରି ଯେତେବେଳେ ଇକୋନୋମିକ ରିସେସନ ହେଇଗଲା ଠିକ ଅଛି ଇକୋନୋମିକ ରିସେସନ ହେଲେ କମ୍ପାନୀ ଯେତିକି ଥିବ ସବୁ ତା ଉପରେ ଆଫେକ୍ଟ ପକେଇବ ତା ଉପରେ ଏଫେକ୍ଟ ପକେଇଲେ ତାର ଯଦି ଜିନିଷ କିଏ ନେବେନି ତାହେଲେ କଣ ହବ ତାର ସେମିତି ଆଉଟକମ୍ ଆସିବନି ତାର ସେମିତି ରେଭିନ୍ୟୁ ସେ ଜେନେରେଟ କରିପାରିବନି ଜେନେରେଟ ନ ରେଭିନ୍ୟୁ କଲେ କଣ ହବ ସିଏ ଆଉ କଣ ଏମ୍ପ୍ଲୟମେଣ୍ଟ କୁ ସେତିକି ପୋଷି ପାରିବ କି ପଇସା ଦେଇକି ତ ଅନଏମ୍ପ୍ଲୟମେଣ୍ଟ ହେଇଯିବ କ୍ରାଇସିସ୍ ହବ ଡାଉନଫଲ ହବ ଆଉ ସେଠିକୁ ଯୋଉ
ଓହୋ
ଯାଉଥିଲେ ଲୋକମାନେ ସେମାନେ ଆଉ କଣ ଯିବେ କି ସେଠି ରହିବେ କି ରହିବେନି ସେ ଅଲଗା କମ୍ପାନୀକୁ ମୁଭ୍ ହେବେ
ୟେସ୍ ମ୍ୟାମ୍
ତାପରେ ଚ୍ୟାଲେଞ୍ଜେସ୍ କଣ ଅଛି ଏଇଟା ପଢିଦେଲା ତାପରେ ପଭର୍ଟି ଆଣ୍ଡ ସିଟି ଅଣ୍ଡରଲାଇଂ କଜେସ୍ ଅଛି ଚ୍ୟାଲେଞ୍ଜେସ୍ ଅଛି ସଲ୍ୟୁସନ ଅଛି ଏଇଟା ଟିକେ ଦେଖିଦବ କାହିଁକି ବହୁତ ଗୁଡେ ଅଛି ଏଇ ଚାପ୍ଟରରେ consequences of concentrated poverty कौन consequences दरकार concentrated poverty as its core representing the clustering of improved individual with specific geographical area giving rising to pockets of economic advantage. Spatial concentration introduces a myriad of challenges where communities grapple not only with limited financial resources but also with diminished access to opportunities and heightened vulnerability due to the systematic neglect. ତମର ଯେମିତି educational consequences ହେଲା ଯୋଉଠି poverty ଥିବ ସେଠି educational consequences start ହେଇଯିବ କାହିଁକି କି poverty ଯୋଉ ଜାଗାରେ ଏରିଆରେ poverty ଥିବ ସେଠି କଣ ତମେ ଭାବୁଛ କି 100 ଲୋକ ସେଠି education ସେମାନେ ପାଇପାରିବେ resources ତାଙ୍କୁ ପହଞ୍ଚୁଥିବ funding ହଉଥିବ ସେ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷ ହେଇପାରିବନି qualified teachers ଦରକାର ଏଇ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷ facility educational consequences ସେମିତି health consequences ରେ ତମର insufficient treatment ହଉଥିବ ସେଇଠି ଯୋଉ health issue ହଉଥିବ illness ହଉଥିବ chronic illness mental health ସେଗୁଡା major challenges ସେ ସବୁ ଏରିଆରେ ହେଲା ଆଉ ସେମାନେ ବହୁତ ହି ମାନେ ସେଇଠି proper sanitation ନଥାଏ ଆଉ ସେମାନେ ବେସିକାଲି ସେଇ ଲୋକମାନେ ମାନେ କି ପଲ୍ୟୁସନ କୁ ପୁରା ଇଏ ମାନେ ତାଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ ସେ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷ ନର୍ମାଲ କାହିଁକି କି ତାଙ୍କୁ ବଞ୍ଚିବାର ଅଛି ଆଉ ତାଙ୍କ ପାଖରେ ସେମିତି ଇନକମ ସୋର୍ସ ନାହିଁ ଯେ ସେ ସେମିତି ପ୍ରପର ୱେରେ ରହିପାରିବେ तांकर गोटे एनवायरमेंटल हेल्थ हाजर्ड्स हुए से सब चैलेंजेस आसीबो तुमर हेल्थ कॉन्सिक्वेंस सोशल कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस रे तुमर आसीबो सोशल कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस रे तुमर आइसोलेशन जो सोशल आइसोलेशन ता आसीबो सेटा एटा डबल लिख देछि बोधे इकोनॉमिक कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस ताने मिटिगेटिंग माने कोन ए जेतिक सब कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस अछि ताको हमें केमिति स्टॉप करबा केमिति मिटिगेट कर परिबो ओवरकम कर परिबा जेमति कि इन्वेस्टमेंट एजुकेशन सेक्टर रे हमें गोटे प्रॉपर इन्वेस्टमेंट करबा जोटा कि समस्ते इक्वल अपॉर्चुनिटी समस्ते पाई परिबा समस्त से जिंसटा एक्सेस हे परिबो देन तमरो क्राइम प्रिवेंशन स्ट्रेटजी हला बहुत गुडे एरिया रे क्राइम होची ताको हमें केमते प्रिवेंट करबा कोन स्ट्रेटजी इनिशिएटिव करबा कोन पॉलिसी टेकन आमे नबा लॉ हमर कोन कोची लॉ इन्फॉर्मेंस करबा कम्युनिटी भितरे एनहांसिंग करबा हमर सेफ्टी एंड रीबिल्ड द ट्रस्ट एड़ा देन इंटरवेंशन टू एड्रेस अर्बन पोवर्टी कौन कौन अर्बन पोवर्टी रे हमें देखिबा इकोनॉमिक एम्पावरमेंट अफोर्डेबल हाउसिंग प्रोग्राम्स ए सब जिंस गुडा एजुकेशनल रिफॉर्म्स इन इकोनॉमिक एम्पावरमेंट रे तमर कोन आसबो जेमति कि आमे फोकस करबा केमति आमे गोटे जागा रे जॉब अपॉर्चुनिटीज आमे बहुत लोक मानु केमति क्रिएट कर परिबु तापर सपोर्ट करबु एमति कि स्मॉल बिजनेस स्मॉल स्केल इंडस्ट्री धीरे धीरे डेवलप करबु आ बहुत गोटे प्रमोट करबु आमे एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप ताकू आमे कम्युनिटी भितर डेवलप करू कि जा द्वारा हमर बेसी एम्प्लॉयमेंट हे परिबो देन अफोर्डेबल हाउसिंग प्रोग्राम अफोर्डेबल जमती कि एबे तो देखुथबो इलेक्शन चलछि जमती सब कहउचंती कि जो जति कि सब स्लम डिवेलपर्स अछंती जो सब बस्ती रे रहउचंती तांको केमती अर्बन रे भी बहुत बड़े बस्ती अछि तांको गवर्नमेंट कोन करछि तांकर हाउसिंग न थाए इनस्टेबिलिटी थाए तांको सब सेफ जगह को एक्सेस करउछि रेसिडेंस दोछि पक्का घर बनउछि हला ए सब जिंस एजुकेशन रिफॉर्म्स रे भी से जिंस माने कि तमर एजुकेशन समस्तଙ୍କୁ ସେମାନେ ଦଉଛନ୍ତି एडुकेट फाइन ये करछन जो माने बीपीएल तळु को जो माने बिलो पॉवर्टी लाइन रे थांती तांको सब स्कॉलरशिप दिया जाय डिफरेंट स्कॉलरशिप ताकि ସେମାନେ भोकेशनल ट्रेनिंग नहीं परंतु तांकर क्वालिटी ऑफ एजुकेशन को इंक्रीज करि परंतु स्मार्ट क्लास ए सब जिंस भी पॉवर्टी लोक माने ताको एक्सेस कर परंतु এটা ওর কোন আছে আরবান প্ল্যানিং ফর ইনক্লুসিভিটি হেলথ কেয়ার অ্যাক্সেস ইনিশিয়েটিভ কমিউনিটি এনগেজমেন্ট प्रोग्राम बहुत गुड আছে এটা जोड़ा जोड़ा टिके 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 स्लाइड छाड़ दउछ देखि दबो सब पढ़िया पॉसिबल नै पाखा पे कि 180 स्लाइड्स अछि जेनिस ऑफ इनफॉर्मल सेटलमेंट जोड़ा टिके इंपोर्टेंट लाउछ मु सोडा टिके टच कर छिबी इनफॉर्मल सेटलमेंट कौन और फॉर्मल सेटलमेंट कौन सेटा हम देखिया the process of urbanization significantly impacts the socio cultural and economic sphere of life. It also brings a lot of changes in the structure, physical settlement pattern, types of economic activities and social system of both rural and urban communities. In developing countries like India, push factor operating in the rural economy due to appealing poverty, lack of employment opportunity, low wage rate, etc., have led to substantial rural-urban migration. This rural-urban migrants first become pavement dwellers and occupy open verandas of big shop, railway platforms, or any open space in the city. Broadly, there are two types of settlement. One is rural settlement, another one is urban settlement. Settlement can also be classified as a nucleated, linear, compact, and dispersed. In urban area, settlement can be both formal as well as informal. Formal settlement कौन? Formal settlement are the areas which have a cadastral organization with street and essential service like electricity, tap water, sanitation, drainage, electricity, school, hospital, bank, post offices, police station, etc. এটা হলো ফর্মাল সেটেলমেন্ট যোଉଠି ତମକୁ ସବୁ ସର୍ଭିସ ଆଭେଲେବଲ ଥିବ ଏସେନ୍ସିଆଲ ସର୍ଭିସ ଇନଫର୍ମାଲ ସେଟଲମେଣ୍ଟ ରେ କଣ They do not have a cadastral organization or essential service. Informal settlements are found mostly in urban area of developing countries known as slums. Only say urban area ର slums ଜାଗାରେ shanty town ଯୋଉଟା କି ବହୁତ ଦୂର ଦୂରରେ ଛୋଟ ଛୋଟ ଜିନିଷ ମାନେ ଦୂର ଜାଗାରେ ଥିବ shanty town. Basically they are illegal, unauthorized. ସେମାନେ illegal ରେ ଘର କରିଥିବେ, unauthorized ରେ ଘର କରିଥିବେ, unplanned residential area. ବହୁତ ଗୁଡେ ଦେଖିଥିବ ସିଟିରେ ବହୁତ ଗୁଡେ ସିଟିରେ ବହୁତ ଜାଗାରେ ମାନେ ଟିକେ ପେରିଫେରି ସିଟିକୁ ଲାଗିକି ବହୁତ ଗୁଡେ ଅନଅଥରାଇଜ୍ଡ ଘର ଗୁଡା ହେଇଥିବ। ତ ଯୋଉଠି ଅନଅଥରାଇଜ୍ଡ ଘର ଗୁଡା ହେଇଥିବ ସେଇଠି ତ ଇଲେକ୍ଟ୍ରିସିଟି ସାନିଟେସନ ସେମାନେ ସବୁ ଚୋରାରେ ନେଇଥିବେ। ଡ୍ରେନେଜ ସିଷ୍ଟମ ଏଇ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷ ଚୋରାରେ କରନ୍ତି ହେଲା ସେଇଟା ଇନଫର୍ମାଲ ସେଟଲମେଣ୍ଟରେ ଆସିବ। It is a place where people build temporary shelter, often followed by permanent houses. କାହିଁକି ସେମାନେ ଜାଣିଥାନ୍ତି ଏଇଟା ଅଭେଦ ଜାଗା ମାନେ ଏଇ ଜାଗାର କିଛି ଇଏ ନାହିଁ ରେକର୍ଡ ନାହିଁ ତ ସେଇଥିରେ ସେମାନେ ଟେମ୍ପରାରୀ ସେଲ୍ଟର ତିଆରି କରନ୍ତି ହେଲା ଯୋଉଟା କି ପରମାନେଣ୍ଟ ହାଉସ ତାଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ ଥାଏ। Urbanization and economic development ଭିତରେ difference କଣ? Urbanization and economic development are intrinsically related to each other. Urbanization has often been regarded as a positive manifestation of economic development. The relation between is not uniform across region and countries. It is often argued that the development of desired economic and social organization may be slow without urbanization. Urbanization refers to the growing concentration of population in urban area. Urbanization रे भी definition केତେବେଳେ केମିତି ଆସିଯାଏ। तो basically urbanization माने कौन जोठी की population growth होतो increase of growing population in urban area. It is induced by the vertical shift of the workforce from primary to non-primary activities and migration from rural to urban areas. The transformations of rural settlement into urban settlement due to changing socio-economic condition is also an essential factor in urbanization. The expansion of municipal boundaries also contributes to growth in urban population over a period of time. Next ହେଲା ତମର urbanization process କଣ? ମୁଁ ଗୋଟେ ସେକେଣ୍ଡ ଟିକେ ଖାଲି ପାଣି ପିଇକି ଆସୁଛି ଗୋଟେ ସେକେଣ୍ଡ। ହ୍ୟାଲୋ ଅଡିବଲ ହଉଛି ତ ଭଏସ?
Yes, ma'am.
ହ୍ୟାଲୋ ହଁ
Yes, ma'am.
ନେକ୍ସଟ ହେଲା urbanization
Yes,
process.
ma'am.
Urbanization process kya? It is significantly impact the socio-cultural and economic sphere of life. It also bring about significant changes in the structure, physical settlement pattern, form of economic activities, and social system in rural and urban communities. After post-independent, India has witnessed a rapid growth in urbanization. In developing countries like India, a strong push factors operating in the rural economy due to appalling poverty, lack of employment opportunity, low wage rate has led to the substantial rural to urban migration. The government of India in its slum area improvement. Government of India कौन करछि कामे improvement କରିବା ପାଇଁ rapid urbanization, stagnant economy, appealing poverty, and distinguished unemployment in the rural area force people to migrate to urban area for better opportunities. This rural-urban migration, along with a high rate of natural increase, leads to rapid increase in urban population, poverty, and inequality. The rural-urban migrants come to the city in search of jobs and better prospect of life. However, they fail to get employment in the formal economic sector of urban areas, otherwise known as engine of economic growth. A higher incidence of poverty and income inequality do not allow them to have affordable housing option in the city. Land tenure issue thai. This is related to the unaffordability of the migrants to occupy land legally for their housing. So these migrants, also known as urban poor, occupy either government land or no man's land. Characteristics of informal settlement. Informal settlement ର କଣ characteristics ଅଛି? Informal settlements are characteristically different from formal settlement. The main characteristics of informal settlement in urban areas are overcrowding and dense population, temporary or semi-permanent housing, lack of basic service or amenities, and informal economy. Overcrowding and dense population informal settlement provides shelter to a large population in a small area. Hence, such settlements are invariably overcrowded with a high density of population. Temporary or semi-permanent housing are rural urban migrants first become pavement dweller or street dweller or occupies some space on railway platform or open verandas of big shop. Later they occupy government land or no man's land and construct temporary houses. ଦେଖିଥିବ ପ୍ରଥମ ଯୋଉମାନେ ଆସନ୍ତି ସେମାନେ କଣ କରନ୍ତି street road ରେ ଶୁଅନ୍ତି ନହେଲେ ବରାଣ୍ଡାରେ କୋଉଠି ସପ୍ ଆଗରେ ଶୋଇବେ ତାପରେ ଧୀରେ ଧୀରେ ସେମାନେ କଣ କରିବେ ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ଲ୍ୟାଣ୍ଡ ଯୋଉଠି ଥିବ ଖାଲି ଥିବ ସେଇଠି କି ନୋ ମ୍ୟାନ୍ସ ଯୋଉଠି କି କୌଣସି ମଣିଷ ମାନେ ଯୋଉ ଘର ଦ୍ଵାର ଖାଲି ଜାଗା ଟିକେ ଥିବ ସେଇଠି ଧୀରେ ଧୀରେ ତାଙ୍କର ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ପ୍ଲାଷ୍ଟିକ ରେ ବାଉଁଶ ପକେଇକି ପ୍ଲାଷ୍ଟିକ ରେ ତାପରେ ଧୀରେ ଧୀରେ କରିକି ସେମାନେ ଲୋ କ୍ୱାଲିଟି ମେଟେରିଆଲ କରିକି ଟେମ୍ପରାରୀ ସେଇଠି ସେଟଲମେଣ୍ଟ କରନ୍ତି. The houses are so constructed that they can immediately leave when they ask to vacate the place by breaking their housing materials. If they live there for a more extended period, they start making semi-permanent or permanent house in due course of time. Lack of essential service or amenities. Informal settlement rate dwellers lack access to essential service or amenities such as safe drinking water, sanitation facilities, and electricity. The settlement do not have drainage and sewer system, hence the dwellers in the such settlement are constantly exposed to severe health hazard. Informal economy. People living in informal settlements are rural urban migrants and do not possess any skill to be absorbed in the formal sector of the urban economy. So they get engaged in different types of informal economic activities. They are not registered in the formal economic sector, although they have significant market value. ଯେମିତିକି people engage themselves in such activities in order to meet their daily needs. ଯେମିତିକି rickshaw operator ହେଇଗଲେ, rickshaw puller ହେଇଗଲେ, vendors ହେଇଗଲେ, hawkers ହେଇଗଲେ, street seller ହେଇଗଲେ, waste paper pickers, people having small scale business. What are the problems associated with informal settlement? ଏଇଟା ହେଲା poverty and no job security. And second ହେଲା poverty driving social evils. Third ହେଲା legal and tenure insecurity. Fourth ହେଲା inadequate infrastructure and essential service. ଯେମିତି ତମର ତା ଦେହରେ ସବୁ ହେଇଗଲା drinking water, sanitation, sewage system, electricity, proper road ଏସବୁ ଜିନିଷ. Fifth ରେ ହେଲା ତମର social exclusion. Social exclusion रे ଯେମିତି କି residents of informal settlement face many social issues and challenges. ଯେମିତି କି ସେମାନେ their children are deprived of primary education. They do not get any health care facilities. Their identity often act as a hindrance to job opportunities. They are often looked at with suspicion by residents of planned colony. Health and environment hazards ହେଇଗଲା vulnerability to natural disaster ହେଇଗଲା ଯେମିତି କି ଦେଖିଥିବ ନଦୀ କୂଳରେ ସେମାନେ ବହୁତ ଲୋକ ଗୁଡା ନଈ ପଠାରେ ବି ପାଖାପାଖି ସେଟଲମେଣ୍ଟ କରିଥାନ୍ତି ରିଭର ବେଡ ପାଖରେ କାହିଁକି କି ତାଙ୍କୁ ସେଇଠି ପ୍ରପର ଏକ୍ସେସ ହେଇପାରିବ ୱାଟର ଫ୍ୟାସିଲିଟିଜ ର ଯେତେବେଳେ ଫ୍ଲଡ ଆସିବ ତ ସେଇଟା ତାଙ୍କ ପାଇଁ ଗୋଟେ ବଡ vulnerability ଥାଏ ସେସବୁ ଜିନିଷ ଦେନ୍ ତମର urban environment pollution and types. Urban environment कौन and तारा types कौन. The term urban environment pollution is used to describe how human action and the pollutants it produce affect the various components of urban ecosystem including the air, water, soil, and even the acoustic environment. Pollution poses a severe threat to the environment as a result of population growth, industry, urbanization in the cities. The density of people, businesses, transportation network, and infrastructure in the metropolitan region increase the likelihood of pollution and its repercussions. Causes of urban environment pollution कौन environment pollution हबस the industrial activities ହେଇଯିବ ଗୋଟେ then second ହେଲା ତମର vehicular emissions ଏ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷ ଗୁଡା ଲେଖି ଦେଇଛି ଗୋଟା ପଢିଦବ ଆକୁ ମୁଁ ଡିଟେଲ୍ସ ରେ ଯାଉନି କଣ causes and of environment pollution ଖାଲି just ବି କହି ଦଉଛି ଟିକେ ଟିକେ ନା ପଢିବାକୁ ପଡିବ କହିବାକୁ ପଡିବ ଗୋଟେ ବିଟ୍ କହିବି ନା ପୁରା ଡିଟେଲ୍ସ ପଢେଇବି ହ୍ୟାଲୋ
ମ୍ୟାମ୍ ଓଭରଅଲ୍ କହିଦିଅନ୍ତୁ ଚଳିବ।
ହଁ ହଁ କାହିଁକି ଏଇଟା ମାନେ କଣ କଲ ସେଇଟା ତ ନିଜେ ଜେନେରାଲ ଟର୍ମ ନା କଜେସ୍ ଅଫ ଅର୍ବାନ ଏନଭାୟରନମେଣ୍ଟ ପଲ୍ୟୁସନ କଣ ଇଣ୍ଡଷ୍ଟ୍ରିଆଲ ଆକ୍ଟିଭିଟିଜ ରୁ ହୁଏ ଏଇଟା ଯେମିତି ପାୱାର ଜେନେରେସନ ହେଇଗଲା ମ୍ୟାନୁଫ୍ୟାକ୍ଚରିଂ ହେଇଗଲା କେମିକାଲ ପ୍ରୋସେସିଂ ଏଇ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷରୁ ତମର ମାନେ କି ପଲ୍ୟୁସନ ଟା ହୁଏ ଯେମିତି କି ସେଇଥିରୁ ରିଲିଜ ହୁଏ ଗ୍ରୀନ ହାଉସ ଗ୍ୟାସେସ୍ ଏଇଟା ଟିକେ ରିଲେଟ କରିକି ଲେଖିପାରିବ ଯେମିତି ଭେହିକୁଲାର ଇମିସନ ହେଇଗଲା ଦ ୟୁଜ ଅଫ ଫୋସିଲ ଫୁଏଲ ପାୱାର୍ଡ ଅଟୋମୋବାଇଲ ଇଜ ଅ ସିଗ୍ନିଫିକାଣ୍ଟ କଣ୍ଟ୍ରିବ୍ୟୁଟର ଟୁ ଅର୍ବାନ ଏନଭାୟରନମେଣ୍ଟାଲ pollution. Pollutants that are emitted into the air as a result of combustion emission from vehicles, trucks, buses, motorbikes include the nitrogen oxide, carbon monoxide, volatile organic compounds, and particulate matter. Therefore, due to poor air quality, there are various health risks to humans. Construction and infrastructure development projects are routinely carried out in the metropolitan cities. Construction activities are to pollution by creating dust and debris during excavations, demolitions, and the transit of building materials. These operations release noise, potential contaminants, and particles into the environment. Household waste. Urban areas with dense population generated lots of domestic waste, including household waste, sewage, and wastewater. Ineffective waste management practice such as improper disposal and inadequate wastewater treatment can cause contaminations of the land and water as well as the emission of dangerous gases. Inappropriate land use planning. Pollutions may accumulate in urban areas with proper zoning and land use planning. For instance, situating industrial operation too close to neighborhoods may expose those population to air and water pollution. Similar to how a lack of green space and urban plants can cause a lack of natural filtering and poor air quality. Source of urban air pollution. ଏଥିରେ ଏଇ ଡାଇଗ୍ରାମ ରେ ଦେଖିଦବ କଣ ସୋର୍ସ ନାଇଟ୍ରୋଜେନ ଅକ୍ସାଇଡ ହେଲା ମାନେ କି ମେନ୍ ଗ୍ୟାସ अर्बन एयर pollution ର sulfur oxide then carbon monoxide then volatile organic compounds ଏଇ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷ ଦେଖିଦବ ଏଇ ଜିନିଷ ସବୁ ଆସେ ଗୋଟେ ମାତ୍ର ୟୁଜିସି ନେଟ ରେ ଏଇ ସବୁ କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚନ୍ସ ଗୁଡା ଆସେ କଣ ସୋର୍ସ କୋଉ ସୋର୍ସ ରେ ଏୟାର ପଲ୍ୟୁସନ କୋଉ ଗ୍ୟାସେସ ରେ ଏଇଟା ଆସେ Then impact of urban environmental pollution. Air pollution. Urban air pollution can lead to respiratory diseases, cardiovascular issues, allergies, asthma, and even early death. Greenhouse gas elevate environmental issues by contributing to global warming and climate change. Air pollution can affect biodiversity and make ecosystem, plants, soil, and water bodies more acidic and thus leads to environmental degradation. Water pollution. Ecological impact. Water pollution can influence aquatic ecosystem leading to a decline in populations of fish, loss of biodiversity, and instability of food chains. Human health risks include increased risk of gastrointestinal issues, long-term health problem, and waterborne diseases from contaminated water source. Then water pollutions can lead to the contamination of drinking water source, forcing extensive treatment processes to ensure clean drinking water for pollution, urban population. Then next ହେଲା ତମର noise pollution. Urban environments are home to a broad varieties of activities, including transportation, building work, manufacturing, public gathering, and loud music. All this poses threat to the sustainability of the city. Some of the detrimental consequences of noise pollution can be insomnia, hypertension, cardiovascular disease, and a decline in cognitive skills. These are some of the negative health impact of the long-term exposure to loud noise level. Also, noise pollution can disrupt sleep, which can have a detrimental impact on the mental health. Soil and land. Urban soil and land contamination is caused by several factors, including industrial operations, improper waste disposal, chemical spills, construction debris, and the use of chemical in agriculture. Common contamination in urban soils are heavy metal, pesticides, insecticides, petrochemicals, and construction debris, etc. Then, what are the mitigations and management of urban environment pollutions? कौन mitigation और management ହେଇଥିବା ଦରକାର? First ହେଲା ତମର regulatory principle and procedure. ତା ଦେହରେ ତମର EIA, Environmental Impact Assessment. By conducting EIAs before the start of urban development project, potential environmental impact can be identified and efficient mitigation solution can be developed. ଗୋଟେ urban city ରେ କୌଣସି ବି project କି କୌଣସି housing start ହେଲେ ସେଇ ଜାଗାରେ ମାନେ କି ସେଇଟା environment କୁ କେତେ protection ସେଟା assessment ହୁଏ environmental impact assessment ଦ୍ୱାରା certify ହେଇ ସାରିଲା ପରେ ସେଇ ଜାଗାରେ approve ହୁଏ ସେଟା କରିବା ପାଇଁ. Then emission standard and regulations. Strict emission standard and regulations for vehicles, power plant and industry can help to reduce air and water pollution in urban areas. Urban planning and zoning. Urban planning and zoning practice that takes environmental issues into account can assist minimize pollution by ensuring proper land use, minimizing industrial and residential conflicts, and promoting green space and sustainable infrastructure. Then practical solution ground level solution କରାହବ ଆମ ପାଇଁ. Our sustainable transportation system, we can reduce traffic congestion and emission while enhancing air quality by supporting environment-friendly modes of transportation like electric cars, public transportations, bicycle infrastructure, and pedestrian-friendly city planning. Waste management strategy. By putting them into practice, one could reduce the impact of waste on the environment and air, water, and land pollution. Some of these strategies include recycling, composting, and safe disposal method. Green infrastructure it is feasible to better manage rainwater runoff, reduce water pollution, and improve urban microclimates by including components of green infrastructure into urban architecture such as green roof, rain garden, and permeable pavements. ତାପରେ ହେଲା ତମର public participation and awareness. ଏଇଟା ଗୋଟେ important initiative public participation ଆଉ awareness ହେଲା important जोटा कि सब जिनस दरकार ଯେମିତି କି initiative for public education teaching the general public including college students about the factors that contribute to urban pollution can raise awareness and encourage sustainable behaviors including reducing waste conserving resources and forming eco-friendly habits. Citizen participation in decision making, involving citizen in the decision making processes for environmental policies, pollution control measures, and urban planning encourage greater accountability, transparency, and the taking into account of many points of view. Then tomorrow ହେଲା impacts of pollution and repercussions on the urban environment. Pollution ର କଣ impact ପଡୁଛି ତମର urban environment ଉପରେ effects on public health ରେ ସେ ସବୁ diseases start ହେଇଯିବ ତମର respiratory problem ହବ asthma ହବ ତାପରେ eye irritations ହବ ଏଇ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷ when it contain fine particulate material PM 2.5 nitrogen oxide and volatile organic compound heart attacks, strokes, and high blood pressures are all cardiovascular disease that can occur as a result of exposure to air pollutants like nitrogen oxide. Some air and water pollutants such as benzene, formaldehyde, and heavy metals are found in urban setting and may contribute to the development of cancer. Environmental impact on loss of biodiversity ହବ ତମର due to the disrupting of the ecosystem, diminishing the quality of habitats, and influencing populations of flora and fauna. Urban pollution, which includes air, water, and soil pollution, can have a negative impact on the biodiversity. Urban soil pollution. Urban soil pollution can reduce the soil fertility, eradicate helpful microorganisms, and interferes with ecosystem function, all of which can have a negative impact on agriculture output and the availability of the green space in cities. ତାପରେ ହେଲା ତମର socio-economic impact. People's quality of life can be negatively impacted by urban pollutions, particularly noise pollution, which can cause stress, interfere with sleep, and generally make people feel less joyful. Urban pollution has a significant financial impact, which includes medical costs for illness it caused, the price of pollution control measures, and lost output due to the health issue and environmental constraint. Future of sustainable method. Future ରେ କଣ କେମିତି ଆମେ sustainable କରିକି ରଖିପାରିବୁ city ଟାକୁ. Then first ହେଲା ତମର city planning and development for sustainability. Encouragement of compact and mixed use development. By promoting compact and mixed use development, one can reduce the need for expensive transportation, restrict urban sprawl, and promote walkability, all of which contribute to a reduction in pollution from vehicles. Green infrastructure, it is feasible to control rainwater runoff, then lessen the effects of urban heat island and improve overall livability by include green infrastructure in urban planning such as urban park, green roof and tree lined street. ଏଇଥିରେ ଯୋଉ diagram ଟା ଅଛି sustainable solution and future outlook. ଚାରିଟା ଅଛି sustainable urban planning and design, then pollution control and mitigation measure, promotion of sustainable lifestyle, then integration of technology and innovation. Then promoting sustainable lifestyle. Promoting sustainable lifestyle କେମିତି ହେଇପାରିବ ଯେମିତି କି ତମେ information ଆଉ awareness ଦବ କୋଉଠି ଦବ university students କୁ ଦବ general publics ମାନଙ୍କୁ ଦବ. It can be modified their behavior in ways that support sustainable lifestyle, choice by supporting environmental education and disseminating awareness about the sustainable practice. Sustainable consumption and production encouraging the circular economy ideas, supporting locally produced goods, and adopting responsible consumption habits may all assist to reduce waste generation and the environment effect of metropolitan areas. Then integration of technology and innovation. Technology ଯେତିକି ଅଛି ତାକୁ କେମିତି innovative way ରେ ଆମେ use କରିପାରିବା ସେଇଟା. By using technology and data driven urban management techniques, smart city solution may optimize resource use, boost energy efficiency, and enhance pollutions monitoring and control. Use of renewable energy source. The use of renewable energy source, including solar, wind energy, is encouraged since it helps decrease reliance on fossil fuels, reduce greenhouse gas emission, and improve air quality in metropolitan areas. The next ହେଲା ତମର କଣ urban flooding. Urban flooding କଣ? Urban flooding is the inundation of land or property within a built environment, especially in areas with higher population density as a result of prolonged or intense rainfall that exceeds the capacity of drainage system. Urban flooding often leads to substantial economic damage along with adverse social and environmental consequences. Effect on one of the main risks in contemporary towns and cities in urban fluvial. Urban fluvial মানে কোন? Surface water flooding. In contrast to other types of flooding, this sort of flooding is direct, immediate, and localized result of rainfall. It frequently occurs with little forewarning and in places that are not obviously prone to flood, making it difficult to manage and predict. Urban flooding incidents have a major impact on disaster losses, including insured and uninsured losses, property destruction, adverse effect on local and communities in India and around the world. Causes for urban flooding is a particular type of flood that can occur in urban setting and is distinct from class flood, coastal flood, or river flood. Urban flooding is distinct from other type of flooding because it results from a lack of drainage in urban areas. Heavy downpours might result in floods when the sewage system of the city and draining canals lack the requested capacity to remove the amount of rain that is falling. Urban area contain a high proportion of paved and tarred surface, which decreases water infiltration and increases the amount and speed of water running of the ground surface. This is made worse by the fact that urban areas frequently change natural drainage system which reduce their ability to handle extra water. Additionally, the existing drainage systems are under a lot of stress from the rising urban population and degree of urbanization, raising the possibilities of their failure. ଏଇଥିରେ ଦିଆହେଇଛି ଏଇ ଡାଇଗ୍ରାମ ରେ ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ଟେବୁଲ ଟା ଅଛି ସେଥିରେ ଦିଆହେଇଛି ମେଜର ଫ୍ଲଡ୍ କୋଉ କୋଉ ଜାଗାରେ ହେଇଥିଲା କେବେ ହେଇଥିଲା ଇଣ୍ଡିଆରେ ମେଜର ଫ୍ଲଡ୍ ତ ଚେନ୍ନାଇରେ କେଉଁଠି ହେଇଥିଲା ତେଲେଙ୍ଗାନା ହେଇଥିଲା ମୁମ୍ବାଇରେ ହେଇଥିଲା କେରଳାରେ ସବୁ ଇୟର ଦିଆହେଇଛି ମେଟ୍ରୋଲୋଜିକାଲ ଡ୍ରାଇଭର ଆଉ କେତେ ଇଫେକ୍ଟସ୍ କରିଛି କେତେ ଲୋକ ସେଥିରେ ସଫର ହେଇଛନ୍ତି urban flood mitigation and management practices. As flood events and destruction increased around the world, attentions to flooding in cities began to increase to protect public safety and preserve socio-economic circumstances. This flood must be managed effectively. As a result, spatial distribution, detailed mapping, flood zonation, vulnerability, risk proneness, and risk zonation are now widely used. कौन कौन measures नवा में structural measures Urban flooding is often considered an infrastructure problem that can be solved with engineering technology as it significantly reduces the risk and damage caused by flooding. Most government initiatives are aimed at improving structural elements such as embankments, retaining walls, dikes, culverts, retaining ponds, improving drainage channels, and removing floodplain barriers. Non-structural measures are less expensive and more practical. Flood mitigation strategy include non-structural measures including urban flood proofing management, cleaning drainage system, flood defense system, evacuation plans, and for flood forecasting and early warning system. Some examples of non-structural measures in use are disaster risk awareness, emergency planning and management such as local flood warning system, designing the evacuation strategy, flood hazard maps called atlas, inundations map of the whole nations down to district level, and automatic weather station distributing real-time rainfall and flood alert. Early warning system. In India, several early warning system projects have been implemented at both regional and national levels. One notable example is the integrated expert urban flood forecasting system for Chennai, which comprises six essential and interconnected components. These components facilitate real-time flood information exchange and monitoring through automated links, ensuring seamless data sharing and forecasting. In Mumbai, automatic weather stations have also been established to monitor rainfall and deliver real-time rain and flood warning via website and mobile device. Heat island. It is an important question. Urban heat island cone for causes one. The term heat island describes the phenomena in which metropolitan regions are warmer than their surrounding rural areas. Metropolitan regions are warmer than their surrounding rural areas. Human action and the nature of urbanization are major contributors. Urban morphology, land cover changes, human heat sources, and a deficiency of green space are all contributors to heat island creation. Causes कौन? Urban structure and growth. ତାଦେହରେ କଣ ହବ? Dense, high-rise urban development blocks, wind and trap seats resulting in uncomfortable highs in the summer. Canyons formed by the street, lined with towering buildings, reduce natural ventilations and increase the likelihood of overheating. Roads, walkways, and parking lots are just some of the large areas that are paved and contribute to rising temperature if they are not properly sealed. Alterations to land use and land cover, deforestation, and urbanization reduce the cooling effect of vegetation and evapotranspirations by replacing natural green space with impermeable surface. The conversion of wetland into urban area lowers the cooling effects of evaporation and upsets the heat balance in the environment. Lack of green space. There are not enough parks and green space in the city. Therefore, there is not enough natural cooling to offset the heat. Decreasing tree cover. When tree cover is low, shade, evapotranspirations, and heat abatement are all compromised. Impact कौन? Impacts on human health. Health is caused by heat. Elderly people, young children, and people with pre-existing health disorders are more susceptible to heat injection, heat stroke, and dehydration when temperature rises. Heat island can worsen air pollution by trapping pollutants and causing higher concentrations of dangerous elements, including particulate matters and ozone, both of which can have detrimental effects on respiratory health. Consequences for hydrologic system. Heat islands amplify the need for water in metropolitan area for uses such as cooling infrastructure, landscaping, and irrigations. Low oxygen level and the proliferations of toxic algal blooms are both consequences of increased temperature in aquatic bodies, which heat island can worsen. Impact on the environment, modifications to the local microclimate. Heat island impact the local microclimate, which has consequences for a variety of ecological and environmental processes. Reduced biodiversity and disturbed ecological balances are two outcomes of the urban heat stress, which can be caused by the higher temperature in common cities. Mitigation कौन कौन methods adopt methods for urban design and planning. Parks କରିବା, vertical gardens କରିବା, urban forestry କରିବା, ଏସବୁ କରିବା ପରେ it can be included in the city planning to increase greenery and facilitate a passive cooling. Mixing residential, commercial, and recreational space help spread out heat generating activities across the landscape. Environmentally sound transport, promoting active mode of transport such as walking, cycling, and public transport can help cut down on greenhouse gas emission and the heat they produce. By improving access to public transportation and creating bike lanes and pedestrian friendly streets, we can reduce our environmental impact. The next ହେଲା ତମର urban climate change. Urban climate change form. Climate change is a global phenomenon that has a major impact on urban life, rising in global temperature that are leading to rising sea level, more extreme weather events such as your floods, droughts, and storm, and an increased prevalence of tropical diseases. Urban climates are often different from the surrounding countrysides as they are generally more polluted, warmer, wetter, and less windy. These differences are mainly due to the natural topographical changes due to the man-made structure and construction of Earth's surface. This suggested that higher temperature and more extreme weather events are projected and that the impact of climate change will be felt more strongly in urban areas than in the surrounding landscape. Impact kono? Climate change will have a serious impact and consequences for cities. Impact will range from the direct effect of rising temperature and changing precipitation dynamics to indirect impact from disturbance and climate change related events elsewhere. Urban morphology. Urban morphology con urban temperature is strongly influenced by the urban heat island, which is considered a major problem of urbanization process. There are three parameters of urbanization have a direct impact on urban heat island. First, increasing number of dark surface, depletion of surface vegetation and open surface, dissipations of heat produced by human activities. Urban hydrology कौन? Urban hydrology ହେଲା with climate change, the frequency of flood peaks is expected to increase. In addition, this is accompanied by an increasing in sea level, which together with an expected increase in windstorm frequency will lead to an increase in coastal flooding. An increase in urban temperature will also have a strong effect on evapotranspiration, which is largely limited by precipitation. Indirect effects on urban habitat and biodiversity. Indirect effect on climate change. Climate change will affect a number of factors important for habitat quality and urban diversity development, such as population dynamic, species distribution pattern, interaction between species and ecosystem services as a result of spatial or temporal reorganization. Then increasing urban temperature and changing rainfall dynamics will affect the development of species communities by constraining water availability during the growing season and changing nutritional dynamic. कौन कौन strategy और adaptation नबू हमें urban green infrastructure, and nature-based solution. In fact, vegetation can play an essential role in returning the urban climate to its pre-development state. Sustainable urban planning, encouraging compact and mixed land use development, promoting transit-oriented development, and limiting urban sprawl can reduce greenhouse gas emission and increase the resilience of cities to climate change. In fact, flood management, adopting effective flood management measures such as building flood barriers, constructing retention basins, and improving drainage system can reduce the risk of urban flooding during extreme weather events. Heat mitigation, deploying cool pavement, shading structures, and increasing vegetation cover can mitigate the impact of rising temperature and reduce heat-related health risks. Climate responsive building design, encouraging the construction of energy efficient and climate responsive buildings with proper insulation and passive cooling techniques can reduce energy consumption and enhance indoor comfort during extreme weather conditions. Water conservation and management, promoting water conservation practices, rainwater harvesting, and efficient water use in urban areas can alleviate water scarcity during droughts and ensure water availability in the times of need. Climate resilient infrastructure, designing and upgrading critical infrastructure such as roads, bridges, and utilities to withstand climate related hazards such as a sea level rise and intense storm can enhance urban resilience. Community engagement and in education, raising awareness about climate change and involving communities in adoption planning and decision making processes can lead to more effective and inclusive adoption strategy. Green transportation, encouraging the use of public transportation like your cycling, walking can reduce carbon emissions from vehicle and alleviate traffic congestion in urban areas. Disaster preparedness and emergency response. Developing comprehensive disaster preparedness plans and efficient emergency response system can minimize the impacts of extreme weather events and protect vulnerable populations. Then urban agriculture, supporting urban agriculture initiative can enhance food security and reduce the carbon footprint associated with transporting food over long distance. Then climate resilient economic development is promoting business and industries that are climate resilient and low carbon can foster sustainable economic growth in the city. Climate data and monitoring. Investing in climate data collecting and monitoring system can improve understanding of local climate trends, enabling more informed decision making for adoption strategy. Then international corporations collaborating with other cities and other countries to share best practice and resources can lead to the more effective and globally coordinated urban climate change adaptation efforts. The next one is your mitigation of urban environmental problem. Space, first one is your space, particularly living space and overpopulation. Second one is your resources. This includes food, water, and energy. Third one is your mobility, transportation. Fourth one is your health issue. As a result of rising stress and pollution, there is increased demand on health services which have limited resources, budget, and proper capacity of people with relevant skills like your doctor, nurse, etc. Fifth, sanitation, management of water and wastewater. Sorry, tectonic activities such as your natural disasters such as your volcanics, earthquakes, and tsunamis pose a threat in geologically vulnerable places. Although serious issues that are growing, workplace distance, the requirement to live in the cities where the majority of the job are, mitigation to city outpace the rate of house construction, environmental degradation and the loss of green space, increase in automobile emissions and resource use in manufacturing and cities. Eight, air pollution, water pollution, groundwater pollution, coastal or lake pollution, ଏଗୁଡାର ସବୁ impacts ଯଦି ବି କିଏ ମନେ ରଖିପାରୁନି ଏ ଗ୍ରାଫ କୁ ଦେଖିକି ତାଙ୍କର ଇମ୍ପାକ୍ଟ କଣ ତାଙ୍କର କଜେସ୍ କଣ ଆଟଲିଷ୍ଟ ଏତିକି ଜିନିଷ ମନେ ରଖିବ ଦି ପଏଣ୍ଟ ସବୁଥିରୁ ମନେ ରଖିଲେ ଲେଖିପାରିବ କିଛି ଥିଓରି ଗୁଡା ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ତିନିଟା ମୁଁ ଦେଇଛି ଟେବଲ ଫର୍ମାଟରେ then mitigation last one is your mitigation of urban environmental problems कौन mitigation नहीं परिवा हमें first one is your raise awareness and educate about urban environmental issue, support in policy and monitoring and evaluation, balancing kariba. A balance must be maintained between the natural and built environment as well as between ecological and economic goals. Economic goal in job creation, income generation, distribution, especially for developing countries, must be aligned with the ecological goal of sustainable livelihoods. Action plan कौन होगा? Action plan रे steps that are important in the short term must be made in order to obtain greater acceptance while keeping long-term aim in mind. Goals and vision must be divided into immediate, intermediate, and long-term goals in order to better understand the difficulties and produce visible result. Then hela information management. Information management रे कौन हुए? To acquire a better knowledge of the issue at hand, information access, sharing, disseminations must be prioritized. Timely and well packaged information is critical for influencing local decision making processes, which have global ramification. Then next one is your sustainability. The concept of sustainable development and sustainable living in all of its various definitions must be understood and implemented. The community, local government, and a wide range of non-governmental organizations, including the commercial sector, must all be involved. Technology. To tackle environmental concern, local and city government must support and exchange the development of clean, green, and useful technology. ଏଇଟା ତମର ଥିଲା यूनिट 4 ଟା यूनिट 4 ଏଟା 4 ଥିଲା 5 ଟା ଏବେ ଜଷ୍ଟ ଷ୍ଟାର୍ଟ କରିବି within 1 minute ରେ 5 ଟା ଷ୍ଟାର୍ଟ କରିବି यूनिट 5 ଟା urban planning in India policies program planning sustainable uses in future କାଲି ପରଦିନ ଆଡକୁ ପିପିଟି ଟା ସେୟାର କରିଦେବି ଗ୍ରୁପ ରେ
Okay, ma'am.
screen share हेलो स्क्रीन विजिबल होची समस्तଙ୍କୁ
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
नेक्स्ट टा हला तमरो अर्बन प्लानिंग इन इंडिया लास्ट चैप्टर 5 अर्बन प्लानिंग इन इंडिया रे टाउन प्लानिंग इन इंडिया is as old as the history of India. In the ancient India, town planning finds a reference in the Indus Valley civilization, 3rd to 2nd millennium BC, and subsequently Vedic period, which is worth mentioning. The Indus Valley civilization, that is your Harappan civilization, a pre-Vedic phenomena, is the earliest known urban culture in India. It is one of the best example of town planning with excellent drainage and sanitation system. Both Harappa and Mohenjo-daro were divided into two main parts. The main stream, the main street of Indus Valley were at right angle and extremely broad enough for wheeled vehicles and had street lamp for the welfare of public. The houses were divided into three main groups, that is dwelling houses, larger building and public baths. According to shape and purpose, ancient towns were divided into 8 types, namely Dandaka, Nadyabharta, सरोभद्रा, स्वस्तिक, परस्तर, पद्मका, करमुख and चतुर्मुख এই আটটা না দিয়া হয়েছিল ancient town. The example of Vedic towns are Madurai, Kanchipuram with temples at center and concentric or square street all around. British period towns were developed with strategic linkages to port towns for the purpose of defense, trade and commerce. Britisher evolved techniques and solutions of the municipal problems of maintaining the sanitary conditions in this town, for which they constituted Towns Improvement Committee or Board and Sanitary Commission in Calcutta, Bombay, and Madras presidencies. What are the principal and objectives of urban planning? The principle of urban planning encompass knowledge of various fields like geography, economics, sociology, engineering, and architecture. The guiding principle of the plan is to be prepared, followed by the major 7 aspects to be suitably planned and provided. First one is your housing. Second is your public and semi-public offices. Third is your commercial facilities. Fourth is your recreation centers. Fifth is your road and transportation. Sixth is your green belt or green covered zone. Seventh one is your zoning. Then urban planning process. What is urban planning processes? Professional planners prepare the draft plan, which is usually for 20 years perspective. Draft plan document expect accept proposed land use map is shared for a limited period to call for objection and suggestion of people. Draft plan is finalized by the planners after addressing the objections raised and incorporating the relevant suggestions shared by the people. Final plan with confidential proposed land use map presented to the Legislative Assembly for approval and notification. What are the current scenario of urban planning in India? The urban planning in India post-independence draws from the Delhi Development Act in 1957, which was the first step of its kind. It was followed by Rajasthan Urban Improvement Act in 1959, Maharashtra Regional and Town Planning Act in 1966, Uttar Pradesh Urban Planning and Development Act in 1973, Andhra Pradesh Urban Area Act in 1975, and Gujarat Town Planning and Urban Development Act in 1976. Subsequently, metropolitan planning committees were set up as per Article 243 ZD and ZE of the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1992. Further, Government of India brought UDPFI in 1996 and URDPFI in 2015 guidelines. These developments guided the prevailing urban planning in India. Government of India has also prepared Energy Conservation Building Code in 2017 and 2018 to apply green city with specific guidelines and norms, whereas 2017 covers commercial use, 2018 focuses on residential use. As urban development is a state subject, the state government are empowered to notify development areas in a city or a town and constitute urban development authorities for such areas. Such authorities are given the following power as per section 23 of the work. कौन powers? First है to prepare development plan for the urban development area. Second है to prepare town planning scheme. Third one is your to carry out survey in urban development area for preparing development plans or town planning scheme. Fourth one is your to guide, direct and assist the local authority or authorities and other statutory authorities functioning in the urban development area in matters pertaining to the planning, development and use of urban land. To control the developmental activities in accordance with the development plan in the urban development area. Sixth one is there to execute the works in connection with the supply of water, disposal of sewage, and provision of other services and amenities. Seventh one is your to acquire, hold, manage, and dispose of movable or immovable properties. Eighth one is your to enter into contracts, agreement, or arrangement with any local authorities, person, or organization. Ninth one is your to carry out any development work in the urban development area as may be assigned to it by the state government from time to time. Then what are the planning processes in post-independent? India, how the legal plan document that is Master Plan of Delhi which became the role model for many cities, evolved in 6 decades, is briefly summarized. This will give you a fair understanding of how the aim, objective, and process of master plan has evolved. First, Master Plan Delhi in 1900, Master Plan Delhi 1, 1962 through 1982, 20 years. The first master plan of Delhi circulated on 1st September 1962, commonly represented as a Master Plan Delhi MPD 62 is considered as the first step towards modern planning in India. The plan MPD 62 was prepared for Delhi's 53 lakh populations by 1981. The regional context of Delhi was given due to importance by considering Narela, Gurgaon, Ghaziabad, Faridabad, etc. as a ring town. Second Master Plan Delhi in 1982 to 2001. The second master plan of Delhi was the modified plan MPD 2001 approved by the Government of India and circulated on 1st August 1990. It was for the perspective period 1981 to 2001. Third one, Master Plan Delhi 2001 to 2021. The third Master Plan of Delhi was MPT 2021 that was approved by the Government of India and notified on 7th February 2007. In May 2010, reprinted edition was brought into amendments modification up to October 2009 and again reprinted after incorporating modification notified by the Government of India up to 31st March 2017. Master plan investigate a vision for 2021 and prepared a policy guidelines for the prospective period 2001 to 2021. The vision is to make Delhi a global metropolis and world-class city where all the people would be engaged in productive work with a better quality of life, living in a sustainable environmental. There were subgroups covering the four 12 aspects, namely demography, regional, sub-regional context, shelter, trade and commerce, industry, physical infrastructure, traffic and transportation, social infrastructure, mixed land use, conservation and urban renewal, environment, pollution and development control. Fourth ହେଲା ତମର Master Plan Delhi 2021 to 2041. As of June 2021, the DDA, Delhi Development Authorities, released the draft Master Plan of Delhi 2041 for inviting suggestions and feedback from the public. The draft MPD 41 would be ready by the end of 2021. The DDA has termed this plan as strategic and enabling framework as it is drawn on the basis of lesson learned from earlier master plan for guiding future growth of NCT. The key focus area under the 2041 master plans are providing high quality green-blue areas for recreations and leisure and enhance Delhi's preparedness for the impact of climate change and to devise method to tackle pollution. Then what are the gap between plan and implementation? कौन gap से जो plan develop कले implementation कले ता भितर कौन gap notice ହେଲା? First ହେଲା absence of investment plan means physical plan. Second ହେଲା municipality of agencies at all central, state and local levels. Several institutions are involved, which include ministries, department, authorities, board and decentralized committees in a city. Third one in the lack of vertical and horizontal coordination. The agency as of two above mentioned lack of coordination. Fourth है diverse and unsettled political economy, lacking a conscious on systematic urban development. Then what are the urban programs in India? First है integrated development of small and medium towns. The program was launched in 1979 to 80, basically for developing small and medium towns, partly by providing basic services to poor and also by improving their economic conditions so that the growth of metro cities could be arrested. Initially, the scope of the program was restricted to towns with population below 100,000 as per the 1971 census. It had been decided in the 8th plan to include cities having population of 500,000 as per census of 1991. The next is a low cost sanitation program. The goal of providing sanitation facilities to 80% of urban population was fixed in the early 80s with the announcement of the UN Decadal Program for Water Supply and Sanitation. Accordingly, a central sponsored scheme was launched in 1980 to 81 with the objective of eliminating manual scavenging through conversion of dry latrines. It covered all the households which have dry latrines and those having known latrines, including slum and squatter settlement. Third है shelter and sanitations for pavement dwellers. This program was launched in large urban areas, including metropolitan cities having sizable shelter, less population. The 10th plan has pointed out that the provision of subsidy under the scheme has to be adequate to make it feasible for the NGOs to take up shelter construction. The grant per bed should also be revised to achieve the objective of providing a sufficient number of nights shelters for the homeless women and children. Then next one is the Accelerated Urban Water Supply Program. This is another centrally sponsored scheme launched during the 8th plan for providing water to the towns having less than 20,000 population as per the census of 1991, operationally under the state PHUD to be funded by the central government, state government and concerned ULBS on 50 to 45.5 ratio. The center made the entire cost in union territories. Next, are National Slum Development Program. The NSDP, initiated in 1996 as a scheme of special central assistance for slum improvement, has been providing additional central assistance to state government to provide water supply and sanitation among other facilities to the slum. Next one is Balmiki Ambedkar Awas Yojana. This scheme has been launched in 2001 to provide shelter or upgrade the existing shelter of the people living below poverty line in urban slums, implemented in partnership with state governments who will set up the implementation machinery, arrange for land where required, and for the credit components for housing. The state fund under this scheme will be in proportion to their slum population. ଏଇଟା ହେଲା next ହେଲା ନେହେରୁ ରୋଜଗାର योजना. ଏଇଟା ଗୋଟେ important ନେହେରୁ ରୋଜଗାର योजना. In order to elevate the condition of urban poor, a centrally sponsored program, Nehru Rozgar Yojana, was launched at the end of the seventh five-year plan in October 1989 with the objective of providing employment to the urban unemployed and underemployed poor. Next, urban basic service for the poor. This program was implemented as a centrally sponsored scheme during each five-year plan with the specific objective of effective achievement of the social sector goals, community organization, mobilization and empowerment, and convergence through sustainable support system. Next, Prime Minister Integrated Urban Poverty Eradication Program. Recognizing the seriousness and complexity of was launched in November 1995, applicable to all Class 2 urban agglomerations with a population ranging between 50,000 and 1 lakh, subject to the condition that election to local bodies have been held. Next ହେଲା Jawaharlal Nehru National Urban Renewal Mission. ସେଇଟା ଥିଲା ତମର ସେତିକି ସବୁ ପ୍ରୋଗ୍ରାମ. ଏଇଟା ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଅଛି, ଏଇଟା ଗୋଟେ important question. Jawaharlal Nehru National Urban Renewal Mission. ଆର ମିଶନ ର ଅବଜେକ୍ଟିଭ କଣ ଥିଲା? ଏଇଟା question ରେ ବହୁତ ଟାଇମ ଆସେ. ଏମିତି ଆସିବ JNNURM. JNNURM ର ଅବଜେକ୍ଟିଭ, ତାର ଷ୍ଟ୍ରାଟେଜି, ତାର କମ୍ପୋନେଣ୍ଟସ କଣ? ମିଶନ ଅବଜେକ୍ଟିଭ ଫର୍ଷ୍ଟ ହେଲା it focused attention to integrated development of infrastructural services in the cities covered under the mission, secure effective linkage between asset creation and asset management so that the infrastructural services created in the cities are not only maintained efficiently but also become self-sustaining over time, ensure adequate investment of funds to fulfill deficiencies in the urban infrastructure services, planned development of identified cities, including peri-urban areas, outgrowths, urban corridors, so that urbanization takes place in a dispersed manner. Scale up delivery of civic amenities and provision of utilities with emphasis on universal access to urban poor. Sixth pillar to take up urban renewal program, that is redevelopment of inner cities, means old cities area to reduce congestion. Then mission strategy kono? First hella cities will be required to prepare detailed project report for undertaking project under identified areas. Second hella private sector participation in development management and financing of urban infrastructure would be clearly delineated. Third hella funds for the identified cities would be released to the designated state nodal agency, which in turn would leverage to the extent feasible additional resources from the financial institution or private sector or capital market. Then key issue and challenges with urban development in India. कौन issues challenges ଅଛି? First issue challenges ହେଲା administrative or political jurisdiction, that is your area within municipal limits. Second ହେଲା a threshold population size, where a minimum population size is defined for an urban area settlement, which varies globally between 200% and 50,000% population density. Economic functions, where a significant proportion of the population is engaged in non-agricultural activities. Presence of urban characteristics such as paved street, electric lighting, sewerage. Next, the following objectives and requirement for achieving sustainable development. कौन objectives जोटा कि आमे requirement achieving sustain first reviving growth, changing quality of growth, meeting essential needs for job, food, energy, water, and sanitation, ensuring a sustainable level of population, conserving and enhancing resources base, reorienting technology and managing risks, merging environment and economies in decision making. Sustainable Development 11 aims to achieve the following 10 targets to build sustainable cities and communities. Target 11.1 रे तार description हला कौन 11.1 target रे कौन अच्छी safe and affordable housing by 2030, ensure access for all to educated. एटा भी important sustainable development 11 goal number 11 टा आमर अर्बन सिटीज टा रिलेट करछि आमर सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट को तो आरो जदी आसिला एवडा सब लिखिबो टारगेट 11.1 रे कोन हितला 11.2 11.3 सब लिखिबो 11.1 रे safe and affordable housing by 2030, ensure access for all to adequate safe and affordable housing and basic service and upgrade slum. 11.2 target रे कोन affordable and sustainable transport system by 2030, provide access to safe, affordable, accessible and sustainable transport system for all, improving road safety notably by expanding public transport with special attention to the needs of those in vulnerable situation, women, children, person with disabilities and older person. Target 11.3 inclusive and sustainable urbanization. By 2030, enhance inclusive and sustainable urbanization and capacity for participatory, integrated and sustainable human settlement, planning and management in all countries. Target 11.4 protect the world's cultural and natural heritage. Strengthen efforts to protect and safeguard the world's cultural and natural heritage. Target 11.5 reduce the adverse effects of natural disaster by 2030, significantly reduce the number of deaths and the number of people affected, and substantially decrease the direct economic losses relative to global gross domestic product caused by disaster, including water-related disaster, with a focus on protecting the poor and people in vulnerable situation. Target 11.6 reduce the environmental impact of cities by 2030. एड़ा सब मन रखा पड़ो तुम मानक reduce the adverse per capita environmental impact of cities, including by paying special attention to air quality and municipal and other waste management. Target 11.7, it provides access to safe and inclusive green and public space by 2030, provide universal access to safe, inclusive, and accessible green and public space, in particular for women and children, older person, and person with disabilities. Target 11.A. 11.A ରେ କ'ଣ ଅଛି? Strong national and regional development planning, support positive economic, social, and environmental link between urban, peri-urban, and rural areas by strengthening national and regional development planning. Target 11.B. Implement policy for inclusion, resource efficiency, and disaster risk reduction by 2020. Substantially increase the number of cities and human settlements adopting and implementing integrated policies and plans towards inclusion, resource efficiency, mitigations, adaptation to climate change, resilience to disaster, and develop and implement in line with the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction 2050 to 2020-30. Holistic disaster risk management at all the levels. Target 11.C. Support least developed countries in sustainable and resilient building, support least developed countries including through financial and technical assistance in building sustainable and resilient building utilizing local material. Last ହେଲା ତମର approaches to sustainable urban development. Broadly, the following 6 approaches are required to achieve sustainable urban development. They are: one is your sustainable urban transport, second is your climate resilient cities, third one is your energy efficient buildings, fourth one is your inclusive cities, fifth one is your eco cities, sixth one is your smart cities. Now, ତମର chapter 5 ର ଯେତିକି ଥିଲା ମୋଟାମୋଟି ମୁଁ କହିଦେଲି. chapter 5 ରେ basically ତମର ଯେତିକି ସବୁ programs ଅଛି ତାକୁ ଦେଖିବ ଆଉ sustainable development ଯୋଉ target ଅଛି ସେଇଟା ଟିକେ ପଢିବ. ଆଉ urban planning in India ancient time ଆମର contemporary times ରେ କ'ଣ ଥିଲା ସେଇଟା ଟିକେ briefly ପଢିଦବ. ଯାହା ଯାହା ଅଛି ଯାହା ମୋ ବହିରେ actually ତମର chapter 5 ଟା ବ୍ଲକ ଯୋଉ ଅଛି ୟୁନିଟ 5 ଟା ସେଇଟା ଜ୍ଞାନ ଷ୍ଟଡି ମେଟେରିଆଲ ରେ ଟିକେ ଟିକେ ପାର୍ଟ ହେଇକି ଦେଇଛି. ବିଶେଷ କିଛି ସେ ମେଟେରିଆଲ ଗୁଡା ମିଳିନି, ଯେତିକି କଲେକ୍ଟିଭଲି ମିଳିଲା ମୁଁ ସେତିକି ତାକୁ ଇନକର୍ପୋରେଟ କରିଥିଲି ଯେତିକି ଥିଲା. ଚାପ୍ଟର 4 ରେ ବହୁତ ଗୁଡେ ଇମ୍ପୋର୍ଟାଣ୍ଟ ଜିନିଷ ଅଛି ଯୋଉଟା କି ଚ୍ୟାଲେଞ୍ଜେସ ଟୁ ଅର୍ବାନାଇଜେସନ ଚ୍ୟାଲେଞ୍ଜେସ ଅଛି. ସେଥିରେ ଯୋଉ ଏମ୍ପ୍ଲୟମେଣ୍ଟ ସେକ୍ଟର ଅଛି, ହେଲ୍ଥ ସେକ୍ଟର ଅଛି, ପୋଭର୍ଟି ଅଛି, ସେଗୁଡାରୁ କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚନ୍ସ ଆସିପାରେ ଡିସ୍କସ୍ କରିକି ଲେଖିବା ପାଇଁ. ତ ସେଇଟା ଲେଖିବେ. ଆଉ ସର୍ଟ କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚନରେ ବି ଆସିପାରେ ଅର୍ବାନ ହିଟ୍ ଟ୍ୟାଲେଣ୍ଟ କ'ଣ, ଏସବୁ ଜିନିଷ ଗୁଡା ଯୋଉଟା ଯୋଉଟା ପିପିଟିରେ ମୁଁ ଲେଖିଛି ସେଗୁଡା ସବୁ ବହୁତ ଇମ୍ପୋର୍ଟାଣ୍ଟ ମୁଁ ସେ ଷ୍ଟଡି ମେଟେରିଆଲ ଲିଙ୍କରୁ ହିଁ ଦେଖିକି ସେଗୁଡା ସବୁ କରିଛି. ତ ବେସିକାଲି ଯଦି ସେ ପିପିଟି ଦେଖିକି ଯଦି ଆହୁରି କିଛି ଏକ୍ସଟ୍ରା ବୁଝିବା ପାଇଁ ଚାହୁଁଥିବ ତ ଷ୍ଟଡି ମେଟେରିଆଲ ଲିଙ୍କ ଖୋଲିଦେଲେ ତାର ସବୁ ଇଲାବୋରେସନ ସେ କରିକି ଦେଇଛି ସେ ତମର ଇଏରେ ଷ୍ଟଡି ମେଟେରିଆଲରେ, ତ ତାକୁ ଦେଖିପାରିବ. ଆଉ କିଛି
Yes,
କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚନ
ma'am.
ଅଛି? ହଁ, ଆଉ କିଛି କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚନ ଅଛି କି? ଆଉ କିଛି କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚନ ଅଛି? ଆଉ ଯଦି କିଛି ଅଛି ମୁଁ ତ ପିପିଟି ମେଟେରିଆଲ ସେୟାର କରିଦେବି ଗ୍ରୁପରେ, କିଛି ଇସ୍ୟୁ ନାହିଁ. ମତେ ଆଉ ଟିକେ କ'ଣ ଆଡ୍ କରିବାର ଅଛି ତ ଆଡ୍ କରିକି ମୁଁ ପଠେଇଦେବି. ଆଉ କିଛି କାହାର କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚନ୍ସ ଅଛି କି? କାହାର କ୍ୱାରିଜ ଅଛି ଆଉ କିଛି?
ମ୍ୟାମ୍ ପ୍ରୋବାବଲି କୋଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ଗୁରା କଣ ଆସିପାରେ ସର୍ଟ କୋଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ଆଉ ଲଙ୍ଗ କୋଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ସେଇଟା ଟିକେ ଯଦି କହିଦେଇଥାନ୍ତେ ଭଲ ହେଇଥାନ୍ତା।
ଆଚ୍ଛା ସର୍ଟ କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ଲଙ୍ଗ କ୍ୱେଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ଆକ୍ଚୁଆଲି ମୁଁ ଜାଣିନି ତମମାନେ ଫାର୍ଷ୍ଟ ଟାଇମ୍ ଏଟା ଏକ୍ଜାମ ଦଉଛ କି ସେମିଷ୍ଟର?
ୟେସ୍ ମ୍ୟାମ୍। ମ୍ୟାମ୍ ଏଇଟା 3ଟା ସେକ୍ସନ ହଉଛି 100 ମାର୍କସର।
ନା ନା
3ଟା ସେକ୍ସନ
ମାର୍କସ ରେ
ହଉଛି
କିଛି ନାହିଁ ଯେ 3ଟା ସେକ୍ସନ ହଉଛି 100 ମାର୍କସ ର କିଛି ଇସ୍ୟୁ ନାହିଁ। ବଟ୍ 100 ମାର୍କସ ଟା ତମର କେମିତି ବାଇଫର୍କେଟ କରାହଉଛି ସେଇଟା ଜଣାନାହିଁ ନା କେତେ
ମ୍ୟାମ୍
ମାର୍କସ ର କଣ ଆସିବ।
5 କୋଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ଆସୁଛି 4 ମାର୍କ ଇଚ୍। ଆଉ 5 କୋଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ଆସୁଛି 6 ମାର୍କ ଇଚ୍ ଆଉ 5 କୋଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ଆସୁଛି
ଓହୋ
10 ମାର୍କ।
ଆଚ୍ଛା ଆଚ୍ଛା ଏମିତି ଆସୁଛି କି? ଓ ତାହେଲେ
ୟେସ୍
4 6 10 ନା?
ୟେସ୍ ମ୍ୟାମ୍।
ହଁ ହେଇଗଲା 20 ପାଞ୍ଚଟା ୟୁନିଟ ରୁ ହଁ ତାହେଲେ ତ ଅଛି। ତାହେଲେ ତ ମୁଁ କହିଦେବି ମତେ ଆକ୍ଚୁଆଲି ମାର୍କିଂ ସ୍କିମ୍ ଟା ଜଣା ନଥିଲା ତ କେମିତି ତ ମୁଁ ହ୍ୱାଟ୍ସଆପ ରେ ହିଁ ଇମ୍ପୋର୍ଟାଣ୍ଟ କୋଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ଯାହା ମୁଁ ଭାବୁଛି ସେମିତି ନୁହଁ ଯେ ସେଇ ଇମ୍ପୋର୍ଟାଣ୍ଟ କୋଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ଆସିବ ବୋଲି କିଛି ମାନେ ଅଛି। ବଟ୍
ମ୍ୟାମ୍
ମୁଁ ଇମ୍ପୋର୍ଟାଣ୍ଟ କୋଶ୍ଚିନ୍ସ ଗୁଡା ଦେଇଦେବି ଆଉ କଣ।
ମ୍ୟାମ୍ ଏଇଟା ପ୍ରଥମ ଏକ୍ଜାମ ଦଉଛି ତ ସେଥିପାଇଁ ଆମେ ବି କାହା କଣ୍ଟାକ୍ଟରେ ନାହୁଁ। ଆପଣ ତ ୟୁନିଭର୍ସିଟିରେ ପଢିଛନ୍ତି ଆପଣ ଜାଣିଛନ୍ତି କୋଶ୍ଚିନ୍ କୋଉ ଭଳିଆ ଆସିବ। ସେଇଭଳିଆ ଟିକେ କହିଦେଇଥାନ୍ତେ ଆମକୁ ତ କେହି ଆସିଷ୍ଟ କରିବା ପାଇଁ ବି
ହଁ
ନାହାନ୍ତି।
5-6ଟା କୋଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ତ ସିଓର ମାନେ ମୁଁ ଯାହା ପଢେଇଲି ସେଇଟା ତ ଆସେ ହିଁ ଆସେ ଆମେ ଯେତେ ଥର ଦେଖିଛୁ ସେଇ କୋଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ଗୁଡା ଆସେ। ଯେମିତି ତମର ସେ ଯୋଉ ଅରବାନ ଥିଓରୀ ମଡେଲ ହେଲା
ୟେସ୍
ସେଇଟା
ମ୍ୟାମ୍।
ଗୋଟେ ଏବେ ଯୋଉ ଗୋଟେ ପଢେଇଲି ଯୋଉ ଜବାହରଲାଲ ନେହେରୁର ଅବଜେକ୍ଟିଭ ଆଉ ତାର ମିଶନ ଟା ସେ ଯୋଉ ପ୍ରୋଗ୍ରାମ ର ସେଇଟା ବି ଗୋଟେ ଆସେ। ଅର୍ବାନ ହିଟ୍ ଆଇଲାଣ୍ଡ ଆସେ ସେଇଟା ତ ଆସିବ ଅର୍ବାନ ହିଟ୍ ଆଇଲାଣ୍ଡ ଟା ଆସିବ ହିଁ ଆସିବ। ମୁଁ କହିଦେବି ମତେ ଟିକେ ଟାଇମ ଦରକାର 2 days ଟାଇମ ଦେଲେ ମୁଁ ସେଇଟା ଦେଖିକି ହିଁ କହିଦେବି ପିପିଟି ଗୁଡା କଣ ଅଛି।
ୟେସ୍ ମ୍ୟାମ୍।
ସଷ୍ଟେନେବଲ ଡେଭଲପମେଣ୍ଟ ଗ୍ରୋଥ ତମର ଯୋଉ ଏଇ ଯୋଉ 11 SDG 11 ସେଇଟା ଅର୍ବାନ ପ୍ଲାନିଂ ଟା ଆମର ସଷ୍ଟେନେବଲ ଡେଭଲପମେଣ୍ଟ ସହିତ ଲିଙ୍କ ଅଛି ତ ତାକୁ ବି ଏକ୍ସପ୍ଲେନ କରିବା ପାଇଁ ବି ସେମାନେ କହିଦେବେ ଡିସକସ ସେଇଟା ବି ଦେଇପାରନ୍ତି ଅଛି ବହୁତ ଗୁଡେ ଅଛି କୋଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ଅଛି ସେମିତି ନାହିଁ ଯେ କୋଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ନାହିଁ। ବହୁତ ଗୁଡେ 4 6 10 ମାର୍କସ 10 ମାର୍କସ ର ତ କ୍ରିଷ୍ଟାଲ ପ୍ଲେସ ଥିଓରୀ ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ସେଣ୍ଟ୍ରାଲ ପ୍ଲେସ ଥିଓରୀ ସେଇଟା ଆସିପାରେ ନହେଲେ ବର୍ଜେସ ମଡେଲ କନସେଣ୍ଟ୍ରେଟିକ ଜୋନ୍ ଥିଓରୀ ଏଇଟା କି ସେଇଟା ଯୋଉଟା ହେଲେ ଆସିବ।
ୟେସ୍
ଅଛି ମୁଁ
ମ୍ୟାମ୍।
ଦେଖିଲେ ହିଁ ସେଟା କହିପାରିବି ଆଉ ଫାଷ୍ଟ ୟୁନିଟ ର ତମର ସେ ଯୋଉ ମିନିଂ ସ୍କୋପ ଆଣ୍ଡ ଆପ୍ରୋଚେସ୍ ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ଅଛି ଅରବାନ ଜିଓଗ୍ରାଫିର ପ୍ଲାନିଂ ର ସେଇଟା ଗୋଟେ ଆସିବ ୟୁନିଟ 1 ର ଆସେ ଜେନେରାଲ କୋଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ଗୁଡା ଆସେ ମୁଁ ଦେଖିଲେ ହିଁ କହିବି ଆକ୍ଚୁଆଲି ମୁଁ ଜାଣିନଥିଲି ନା ମାର୍କିଂ ସ୍କିମ କେମିତି ମୁଁ ଭାବିଲି 20 ମାର୍କସ ର ଥିବ ତାକୁ କେମିତି ବାଇଫର୍କେଟ କରିକି ଦଉଥିବେ। 4 6 10 ହେଲା ତ ହଁ 4 ମାର୍କ ର ତ ଆସିକି ଜଣା ପଡିଯିବ 4 ମାର୍କସ ର ଆକ୍ଚୁଆଲି କଣ କହିଲ ବହୁତ ଗୁଡେ ଏମିତି କୋଶ୍ଚିନ୍ ଅଛି ନା ଛୋଟ ଛୋଟ ପଢେଇଲା ବେଳେ 4 ମାର୍କସ ର ଜଣା ପଡିବନି କି ଏଇଟା କେମିତି 4 ମାର୍କସ ର ତ କିଛି କେମିତି କିନ୍ତୁ 10 ମାର୍କସ ର ତ ଆଟଲିଷ୍ଟ ଜଣା ପଡିଯାଏ କି ଲଙ୍ଗ କୋଶ୍ଚିନ ରେ କୋଉଟା ଆସିପାରିବ ଇମ୍ପୋର୍ଟାଣ୍ଟ 4 ମାର୍କସ ର ଯେମିତି ଯୋଉ ଅରବାନ ହିଟ୍ ଆଇଲାଣ୍ଡ କହିଲି ସେମିତି ତ ବହୁତ ଗୁଡେ ତମର ଷ୍ଟଡି ମଟେରିଆଲ ଲିଙ୍କ ଖୋଲିକି ଦେଖିବ ତା ଦେହରେ ସବୁ ଚାପ୍ଟର ଏଣ୍ଡ ଗ୍ଲୋସାରୀ ଲେଖା ହେଇଛି। ସବୁ ଗୋଟେ ଗୋଟେ ୱାର୍ଡ ର ମିନିଂ ଲେଖା ହେଇଛି। ତ ସେଗୁଡା ବହୁତ ଇମ୍ପୋର୍ଟାଣ୍ଟ ସେଗୁଡା କିଛି କିଛିଟା ଇମ୍ପୋର୍ଟାଣ୍ଟ ଅଛି ସେଗୁଡା ସବୁ ପଢିବ। ମୁଁ ଦେଖୁଥିଲି
ମ୍ୟାମ୍
ସେଗୁଡା ବହୁତ ଇମ୍ପୋର୍ଟାଣ୍ଟ ଅଛି।
ମ୍ୟାମ୍ ଯେମିତି ଦିଲ୍ଲୀର ଦେଇଥିଲା ପର୍ଟିକୁଲାର ସିଟିର ପ୍ଲାନିଂ ଟା ସେଇଭଳିଆ ବି ସିଟିର ପ୍ଲାନିଂ ଆସିପାରେ କି ମାନେ
କଣଟା
ପର୍ଟିକୁଲାର ସିଟି
ହଁ
ଯେମିତି
ଦିଲ୍ଲୀର ଆସିପାରେ ଦିଲ୍ଲୀର ଆସିପାରେ ଦିଲ୍ଲୀର ଅଛି ବହିରେ ଦିଲ୍ଲୀର ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ମାଷ୍ଟର ପ୍ଲାନ ହେଇଥିଲା ସେଇଟା ଆସିପାରେ 6 ମାର୍କ ର ଆସିପାରେ ସେଇଟା ସେଟା 10 ମାର୍କ ତ ଆସି ନପାରେ ବଟ୍ 6 ମାର୍କସ ର ସେଇଟା ଆସିପାରେ ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ମାଷ୍ଟର ପ୍ଲାନ ଦିଲ୍ଲୀର ଷ୍ଟାର୍ଟିଂ ସେଇଠୁ ହେଇଥିଲା ନା ଇନିସିଏଟିଭ ସେଇଠୁ ନିଆ ହେଇଥିଲା ନା ଯେହେତୁ
ୟେସ୍ ମ୍ୟାମ୍।
ପପୁଲେସନ ଇନକ୍ରିଜ କରୁଥିଲା ଅରବାନ ଗ୍ରୋଥ ହଉଥିଲା ତ ସେଇଠୁ ଗୋଟେ ମାଷ୍ଟର ପ୍ଲାନ ଟା ଡେଭଲପ କରାହେଇଥିଲା।
ଆଉ 10 ମାର୍କ ର ଯୋଉ ଥିଓରିର କହିଲେ ସେଣ୍ଟ୍ରାଲ ପ୍ଲେସ ଥିଓରି ସେଗୁଡା ଆଉ କଣ କଣ ଆସିପାରିବ?
ମତେ ଦେଖିବାକୁ ପଡିବ ମତେ ଟିକେ ପିପିଟି ସେଟା ଦେଖିବାକୁ ପଡିବ ସେ ଚାପ୍ଟର ମାନେ କଣ୍ଟେଣ୍ଟ ଗୁଡା ଦେଖିବାକୁ ପଡିବ। ମୁଁ ତ ଏବେ ମୁଖସ୍ତ କରିନି ନା କଣ କଣ ଆସିବ ମତେ କଣ୍ଟେଣ୍ଟ ଦେଖିଲେ ତା ଭିତରେ କଣ କଣ ଅଛି ଦେଖିଲେ ହିଁ ମୁଁ କହିପାରିବି।
ଓକେ ମ୍ୟାମ୍।
ହେଲା।
ଆଜ୍ଞା।
ହଉ ଚାଲ ଓକେ ବାଏ।
ଓକେ ମ୍ୟାମ୍ ଥ୍ୟାଙ୍କ ୟୁ।
ହଁ ବାଏ।